Chapter 839. Who is Xinglan? It's the contestant who directly announced that she had advanced to the top 100 in this talent show. Oh, what happened to her? It said that 3 years ago, he lost his chance to be the champion because of stealing from a talent show. Who would have thought that 3 years later, he would change his name and participate in the competition again? So he's a thief. How can he advance to the next level with such a black mark? Shameless. He thought that he wouldn't be recognized just by changing his name and style, but he was still skinned alive. This is retribution. It wasn't the first time that a contestant had been smeared. Over the years, it had been a regular occurrence. But this was the second time that Xinglan had been the main character of the show. Naturally, there was a lot of criticism on the internet. After all, in this era, people hated thieves very much. So it's the elder sister of the heavenly queen of love songs, Li Kan. They are sisters, but why is the difference between them so great? Li Kan is so outstanding. How can he have such an embarrassing elder sister? No matter what, I will not support a thief. Li Xian, get lost from the show. Scram. Do not tarnish the stage of the holy god. This was the attack and pressure that Tongning wanted Xinglan to endure. The scar of the past was reopened once again. He thought that after the scab formed, it wouldn't hurt as much, but it turned out that it would still be bloody. Seeing that Xinglan was upset, Lin Qian patted her on the shoulder and comforted. This is only temporary. Don't be afraid. Li Kan should be laughing out loud right now. I really didn't steal anything. Whether it was 3 years ago or now, I would never steal from someone else. We all know. There was no other way. If they wanted to clarify the matter, they had to reopen the scars. Although this would hurt Xinglan a second time, it would also give her a chance at a new life. It didn't take long before the incident blew up online. Netizens demanded that Xinglan withdraw from the competition and not appear in front of the public again. Meanwhile, the show was affected by the public opinion and the staff were divided. But don't forget, President Mo had already instructed Liu Che to ensure the competition was fair and just. So, in the end, the producers decided to investigate the whole story first before giving everyone an explanation. However, with the carnage on the internet, who would care about the truth? They believed that there was no such thing as a groundless rumor. As long as someone said something like that, it must mean that they had a bad character. As this matter involved the Heavenly Queen, the reporters contacted Li Kan. At the start, Li Kan couldn't reply to the reporters because she had many excuses. But that was Xinglan's strategy. If she didn't respond, it would be the same as admitting it. As a result, the public's criticism towards her would only intensify. In the end, she was afraid that the reporters would lose their patience. So she finally accepted an interview after the program ended. Miss Li, about your sister's theft, that's true? Li Kan directly replied, my sister is still young. I only hope that everyone can give her a chance and stop chasing after her relentlessly. We will just withdraw from the competition. Withdraw from the tournament? Who allowed it? But you've been avoiding talking about it. Why? The reporter asked. The reason why I didn't respond was because I was waiting for my sister to personally admit her mistake. But she didn't. So, I had no choice but to step out and do it for her, Li Kan replied calmly. If you've done something wrong, then you've done it wrong. I don't think changing my name or identity will be enough to cover up the truth. That's just how I am. What's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. I also hope that everyone can give my sister some space. Thank you. Li Kan's words seemed to contain a lot of information. She was hinting that Xinglan refused to admit her mistake and tried to hide the truth by changing her identity. Most importantly, she felt that she was being magnanimous, while Xinglan was a despicable person. Not only did she steal, she refused to admit her mistake. Oh God, how shameless is Li Xian. What's Xinglan? Even if she goes for plastic surgery, it won't change the fact that her hands and feet aren't clean. I'd like to see if she has the guts to come out and compete again. Did she have the guts? Why wouldn't she have the guts? Tongning had already arranged for Lin Qian to communicate with the production crew. Everyone was aware of the drama that was about to unfold. So, before the next round of the competition began, the organizers arranged for Xinglan to attend all of the events. But before the truth was clarified, the director reminded Lin Qian, You guys need to make sure that Xinglan is safe. I can tell that she's very talented. Before the truth is clarified, she will definitely be ostracized if she attends any events. So, you guys need to protect her. Don't worry about that. Lin Qian smiled mysteriously at the director. Superstar Media will take full responsibility for this matter. I'm relieved. Once Xinglan's innocence is proven, I won't have to worry about ratings anymore. Director, you sure know how to joke. Which one of your shows isn't guaranteed to have high ratings? Seeing that Lin Qian had a way with words, the director laughed. He could see the benefits in this. This time, Lin Qian went to the television station on her own to help Xinglan explain the situation. So, as soon as she stepped out of the door, she was surrounded by reporters. Of course, she deliberately allowed the reporters to take pictures of her. That's Xinglan's manager, Lin Qian. She's come out. That's Quan Zai's sister. Let's go. Lin Qian had already prepared herself for a difficult time. But, of course, she had always wanted to see the cameras of the media. Lin Qian, as Xinglan's manager, what do you have to say? It's been almost 10 hours since the incident began. It's time for you guys to give us a response. A response? Hearing this, Lin Qian's lips curved upwards. I'd like to thank the reporters for their support of Xinglan. We've seen a lot of criticism from the public, but I'm confident that everyone will be slapped in the face. Xinglan is a thief? Do any of you have any evidence? But, Li Kan, please don't mention Li Kan's name in front of me. Thank you. Back when Li Kan participated in a show with her sister, Li Kan personally reported her sister, who was about to receive an award. In the end, Xinglan was labeled as a thief, while Li Kan went on to win first place and become the queen of love songs. Please tell Li Kan that the truth won't be too far away. I also hope that the reporters will continue to follow up on this matter. As soon as Lin Qian said this, all the reporters understood another layer of meaning. Lin Qian was implying that Li Kan had framed her sister because she coveted the position of first place. Oh God, it turned out the situation wasn't as simple as it seemed. Was Xinglan innocent? And the real mastermind was Li Kan. Chapter 840. So, between the two sisters, who's the thief? According to Lin Qian, Li Kan stole her sister's championship a few years ago. After seeing that Li Xin had changed her appearance and participated in the competition again, Li Kan must have felt guilty and exposed her sister's theft. She even claimed to be magnanimous. If that's the case, then Li Kan is way too evil. It's frightening to think about it. Everyone knows that Li Xin is talented, but at that time, she had no motive to steal. As a fan that watched the competition 3 years ago, this is how I feel. Where's the evidence? Can anyone present any evidence to prove it? I feel that Li Xin is more deserving of sympathy for this matter. Because she was from a disadvantaged group, it was easier for others to sympathize with her. Li Kan never expected that Lin Qian would say something like that in public. Seeing that the public's opinion was starting to change, she gritted her teeth in anger. I told you before that this matter would only hurt yourself and hurt your enemy. Yet you refused to listen and ended up dragging yourself into this mess. Are you happy now? Li Kan's manager said beside her ear. Right now, the only solution is to produce evidence and hire fake reviewers. But this is an unnecessary loss. I simply can't stand that slut's debut. Why do you care? Li Kan retaliated. If you don't want to help, then forget about it. But don't talk nonsense in my ear. You're annoying me. In that case, I'll leave, the manager said angrily as she left Li Kan's apartment. Li Kan was frustrated, but there was nothing she could do. Back then, she was the one that testified against Li Xin and placed something in her bag. Li Xin couldn't explain herself, so as long as she held on to this, Li Xin wouldn't have a chance to make a comeback. So, she took the initiative and said to the public, back then, all the contestants can testify that I had no reason to slander my sister. I've felt guilty for a long time because of this. The item was indeed found in her bag. Everyone at the scene can testify. As soon as Li Kan explained herself, Lin Qian immediately retaliated. Xinglan and Li Kan are twins, and they look exactly the same. If Li Kan took something and placed it in her sister's bag, no one would know. After all, outsiders wouldn't be able to tell who is who. What do you think, Li Kan? Bitch! Li Kan was so angry that he smashed his tablet on the floor. After all, there were a bunch of people online that were supporting Lin Xian and Xing Lan. 3 years ago, I competed together with Li Xian. She's very kind and isn't someone who would take things from others. Li Kan, on the other hand, is filled with possessiveness and desire to win. I don't like her at all. In any case, I'll believe whoever has the evidence. I support Li Xian. I support little sister. Currently, there was a huge commotion on the internet over who was the thief between the two sisters. It was a hot topic. One was a popular love queen, and the other was an up-and-coming singer. On top of that, they were twin sisters and both of them had a point. Even though Xing Lan's bag was indeed found, the most unbelievable part was that Li Kan and Li Xian looked exactly the same. It was too easy to frame someone for this matter. Li Kan knew that it would be difficult to convince the public to stand on her side with just her words. So, she needed to bring out two powerful reinforcements. These were her parents. The entire city was currently in an uproar over Li Xian's identity as a thief, and the Li family was completely humiliated. So, she couldn't wait to see how her parents were going to deal with the bitch. With this thought, Li Kan excitedly gave her parents a phone call. As soon as Father Li saw that it was a phone call from Li Kan, he didn't want to pick up, so he handed the phone to Mother Li. Although Mother Li didn't want to deal with her heartless daughter, she didn't want to ruin Long Jie's plan. So, she picked up the phone. Canaire, Mom, have you seen what's going on online? My sister obviously stole something, yet she's trying to accuse me of framing her. Mom, you need to get justice for me. Li Kan pretended to cry in an attempt to gain Mother Li's sympathy. But how did this thing get exposed out of nowhere? Li Du's mother asked. Li Kan froze for a moment. Mom, I'm not sure either. I haven't had time to contact the organizers of the show yet, so I'm not sure what happened. I think someone recognized my sister, Li Kan replied. Plus, Mom, that's not the main point right now. The main point is my sister is slandering me. You need to get justice for me. How do you want me to get justice for you? Mother Li asked. If you know my sister stole something, just tell the media the truth. Otherwise, our family will be finished. Okay, what do you want me to do? My agency will arrange for reporters to interview me to clarify the matter. When that time comes, I will invite the two of you. I hope you can lend me a hand, Li Kan begged. Okay, Mother Li immediately agreed. Mom, I knew you treat me the best. I'll contact you later. Li Kan must have gone crazy from wanting to win, so she treated everyone like idiots. Father Li sat to one side and listened to their conversation. As soon as Mother Li hung up the phone, he humphed. Does she still expect me to help her? Honey, we will definitely step in, but it was hard to say who they would help. Li Kan had no self-awareness at all. She even tried to use her parents. No, she had already used them for so many years, however. She had never expected that this time, the Li family's parents would not be so easily fooled. With my parents' help, I'm sure you'll die a horrible death. Li Kan was full of confidence as she gave her manager a phone call. Although the two were angry over a small matter, they were still in the same boat. If the lips were gone, the teeth would be interdependent. So, when it came to big things, they had to be on the same page. I've already asked my parents to testify for me. So, you need to arrange for a live interview. I hope this is the last time. After speaking, the manager hung up the phone without hesitation. She was a little tired. After all, Li Kan had never listened to her before. Soon, Long Jie found out from the Li parents that Li Kan would be interviewed. Did this mean that the show was about to reach its climax? Li Kan had no idea that asking her parents to testify for her would be the worst decision she had ever made. Because at a time like this, no one was going to help her. Between the two sisters, who was the real thief? The entire Beijing audience wanted to know the answer to this question. Li Kan had already announced that she would provide evidence. But what about Xing Lan? The intensity of these sisters' fight is no less exciting than when Tongning tore Tang Xian apart. Chapter 841. Whether an artist won or lost in the end, their agency had a lot to do with it. Although Li Kan didn't work for a big agency, she still had her agency to cover for her. But what about Xinglan? Rumor had it that Xinglan had signed with a management agency called Superstar Media. But no one in the industry had ever heard of this name. All they knew was that this agency had an artist under them, the supporting male lead of the drama The Devil's Haunt, Luo Sheng. In that case, Xinglan can't be compared to them. Their agency has crushed her. It's not easy for a newcomer to make a name for herself. It's almost impossible for Li Xin to make a comeback. No one had high hopes for Superstar Media. At least, ever since Xinglan's incident, apart from a few words from Lin Qian, the agency had not done anything else. But no one knew that the agency had already done everything they could behind the scenes. Li Qian was about to launch her counterattack, but Xinglan did not make a single move. After all, they didn't need to do anything else. At most, the day before Li Qian's parents' interview, they instructed Long Jie to take the two elders out for a walk and accompany them to pick out a good house and location in Beijing. Don't worry. All the dirty water that Li Qian has thrown at us today will flow into the well that she dug for herself. Lin Qian comforted before Li Qian went on stage. You will definitely be cleared. Xinglan nodded her head. But, as the person involved, she was naturally more nervous than everyone else. At the moment, the news of a new talent show, Xinglan and her sister, Li Qian, accusing each other of being thieves has caused quite a commotion. Today, at a 5-star hotel, Li Qian will present her own evidence to prove her innocence. As for the truth of the matter, please follow us and listen to what Li Qian has to say. At 2 p.m., Li Qian dazzling appeared on stage. Apart from her manager and assistant, there were 2 other people in her group. They were the Li sisters' parents. The media were a little surprised. Did this mean that the sisters' parents were going to officially announce that they were on Li Qian's side? If the parents of the Li sisters stepped out to testify against Tongning, did that mean that Xinglan was most likely the liar? That was what the media was guessing, and they were extremely excited about it. It seemed, before the battle had even begun, the outcome had already been decided. According to Li Qian's request, this was a live interview. She wanted to use the most direct method to tell Xinglan that she had no chance of winning. Soon, all the reporters' microphones were placed in front of Li Qian. As for Li Qian, she started sobbing in front of everyone. These 2 days, I can't eat or sleep in peace. At the beginning, it was because I was worried about my sister. Later on, it was because I was bitterly disappointed and angry. Therefore, at this moment, I have no choice but to sit here and tell everyone the truth. My sister Li Xin and I have had 2 different personalities since we were young. She is bold and doesn't listen to others. Maybe it's because she thinks that mom and dad love me more, so she became competitive and her personality changed. I really regret that I didn't fulfill my responsibility as a younger sister and let my sister walk on a path of no return. And this time, I truly did not expect that my sister would treat me like this. I am truly heartbroken and bitterly disappointed. After all, after her theft, I was the one who maintained the family's livelihood. It was already hard on me, but she actually threw this dirty water on her own sister. Li Xin, do you really not feel guilty? Sister, I have nothing else to ask for. I simply hope that you don't make the same mistake again. You stole the necklace. Don't accuse me wrongly. All the contestants at the time of the incident are my witnesses. The necklace was found in your bag, and I have a video of it here. After speaking, Li Qian pulled out her phone and began to play the video. I was there at the time of the incident, and I can testify for Li Xin stole the necklace, and the necklace was found in her bag. Li Xin stole the necklace because Li Qian was with me the entire time. She didn't have the time to pretend to be my sister. Before Li Xin stole the necklace, she mentioned multiple times that she liked it. I can guarantee that I was there at the time of the incident, and that Li Xin was indeed the one that stole the necklace. She was the only one that arrived 5 minutes late. Everyone agreed that Li Xin was the one that stole the necklace, and that she was a thief. After all, when Li Qian asked these people for help, she deliberately fanned the flames and claimed that Xinglan had said bad things about them. It was worth mentioning that Li Qian was quite good at manipulating people. Unfortunately, Tongning didn't bother to use her half-baked skills. If everyone thinks that these people can't be trusted, then there are 2 people that I believe everyone will believe. They're my parents. I'm sure my parents wouldn't lie to everyone, right? After all, they're both their daughters. They're both flesh and blood. But I'm grateful to my parents for being so understanding and stepping out to speak up for the innocent me. After speaking, Leekan asked her manager to invite her parents into the venue. Uncle, Annie, do you remember what we just said? The manager asked. Father Lee's expression was cold and expressionless. Of course, he had always been like this, so Leekan did not suspect anything. Yes, I will, Mother Lee quickly replied. That's good. Please have a seat. The two of them sat down in front of Leekan. At this time, the cameras all turned to look at them. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't do a good job and embarrassed you. Please tell everyone the truth and prove my innocence. Old man, you go first. Mother Lee nudged Father Lee on the arm and nudged him closer to the microphone. Father Lee glanced at Leekan and said loudly into the microphone, My daughter is not a thief. Leekan immediately smiled. She thought that Father Lee was speaking up for her. But neither of my daughters is a thief. Hearing this, everyone, including Leekan, froze. This has always been a setup. Neither of my daughters tried to steal from others. It was simply because my younger sister wanted to win first place that she framed her older sister. Dad, what did you say? Leekan suddenly stood up from her seat and questioned Father Lee. Meanwhile, the reporters went crazy as they picked up their microphones and surrounded Father Lee. Please speak more clearly. Chapter 842. 3 years ago, my two daughters participated in a competition together. My ex-IN heir displayed her singing talent and was only one step away from winning first place. But at that time, Leekan, who wasn't willing to let her sister win first place, secretly stole a contestant's necklace and stuffed it into her sister's bag. As a result, she successfully took away the spot that belonged to her sister. The two of us are old and thought that Sheener was a thief. We felt that she was a disgrace to us, so we ignored her. But recently, we found out that in order to control her sister, Leekan actually restricted Sheener's freedom. In order to control her sister, Leekan actually restricted ex-IN heir's freedom. She even threatened ex-IN heir not to participate in any more programs or she would expose her identity as a thief. She didn't feel guilty at all for taking away her sister's chance of winning. She even asked us to put on an act in hopes that we would stand on her side. But Sheener is also our daughter. Plus, she's been wrong for so many years. How could we continue to help her? Leekan, you are the one that is truly shameless. As soon as Father Lee finished speaking, Leekan immediately yelled, It's not like that. It's not like that at all. Dad, after you became famous, you lied that you had no future with your agency and that they owed you copyright fees. That's why you tricked us out of our life's work and bought a house for you. It's only now that we find out that you already have a few houses under your name. You even tricked your parents out of their money. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Leekan's countenance abruptly turned pale. If you guys don't believe me, you can go investigate. The reason why Sheener changed her appearance was because she wanted to avoid her sister's persecution. She is the most innocent person here. Why didn't you think about it? Sheener is so talented at singing, and she's about to become a champion. Why would she steal someone's necklace? Wasn't her prize money enough to buy 10 necklaces? Leekan, you made a huge mistake by asking us to come here today and get that greedy manager to teach us PR. Your act ends here. Don't go around lying to people anymore. After speaking, Father Lee handed the microphone to his wife and took a step back. At this time, Leekan's manager approached and asked, Did Leekan really say that? Her agency doesn't treat her well and she has no future with us? Lee Doo's father nodded. Leekan's manager smirked as she suddenly rushed up to the cameras and said, Leekan, you're finished. It was true that Leekan was finished. What happened in an instant was the difference between heaven and hell. Leekan would never have imagined that the person he trusted the most would say something like this at such a crucial time. I really didn't expect that Leekan would be betrayed by his own father in the end. It's the drama of the year. I didn't think that Lee Xin would win without losing a single soldier. Lee Xin is indeed innocent. That's why I've won my bet. No matter how arrogant Lee Kan is a lie. No evidence can compare to her own father's words. Li Ken stumbled a few steps back, unable to accept this result. Mother Li originally wanted to say something into the microphone, but in the end, she quietly put it down. Because what awaited Li Ken was eternal damnation. Ma, help me put in a few words. At this time, Li Ken was grasping onto her last straw of hope. She thought she could still come back from the brink of death. But Mother Li held back for a moment and simply said, "Give the house back to your parents. You don't need it." This was perhaps the most ruthless response in the world. After all, it sounded like she wanted to completely cut off all ties with her daughter. As everyone can see, the tables have turned. Li Ken was torn apart by her own father on the spot, and it's going to be difficult for her to survive in the industry. But the most ruthless person was Li Can's mother. She directly forced Li Can to return the house to her parents. Of course, this is also what they call karma. Afterwards, Li Can's agency also announced that they would no longer take responsibility for her. I think Li Can's road to becoming a superstar will end today. Thank you everyone for watching today's entertainment news. As a result, Xinglan had won. Tongning had already done what she had promised. Right now, Li Can is completely isolated and everyone has abandoned her. Consider this as helping you vent your anger, Lin Qian said as she patted Xinglan on the shoulder. Lin Qian patted Xinglan on the shoulder. From now on, you will never be called a thief again, Xinglan cried into Lin Qian's arms. After so many years of pain, she had finally been released. Okay, you can now compete openly. Indeed, from the moment the truth was revealed, Xinglan was no longer a thief with a criminal record. She was now the most talented contestant in this year's competition. And, just as Tongning expected, those that had previously slandered and insulted Xinglan suddenly felt pity for her and began to feel guilty. This helped Xinglan build up her popularity outside of the industry. Plus, the fight had already attracted a lot of attention. With the addition of the topic of conversation, it was going to be difficult for her to be buried. I thought a small agency could only be suppressed by others. This is what they call karma. It was Xinglan's parents who discovered the truth early. You people are too naive. If no one was manipulating the sister's parents, how could you see the truth? Didn't you hear what Father Li said? He only discovered the problem recently. The fact that Li Can had the ability to swindle a house from them is proof that she had some tricks up her sleeve. So, someone must be the mastermind. In this world, there were plenty of retards, but there were plenty of people that understood what was going on. But this didn't change the fact that Li Can was going to be despised by the entire nation and everyone had given up on her. After the interview, Li Can became a street rat that no longer had a foothold in the industry. So, she had no choice but to contact her parents again. "Dad, I know I was wrong. Can you not ask for the house back? I don't have a place to live anymore. Didn't you say that you were still renovating?" Father Li asked. How dare a woman like you call me when you're full of lies? Let me tell you, I'm already in the villa. Your manager gave me the keys. I've already thrown your things out." After speaking, Father Li hung up the phone. Li Can hid in a small restaurant on the side of the street. At this time, she slowly came to terms with reality. She was about to lose everything. As for Xinglan, she received a lot of attention from the public because she was wrongly accused of losing the competition 3 years ago. So, a lot of music companies took advantage of the situation to sign her. Even if she couldn't win the competition, she could still be turned into a music queen. In other words, even if Xinglan didn't compete, she would still be treated like a champion. Didn't this result exceed Tongning's expectations? Of course, the most shocking thing was yet to come. Chapter 843. With Xinglan's current popularity, Hai Rui should be able to recruit her based on merit. That way, the higher-ups at Hai Rui won't be able to force Tongning anymore. It's not time yet. Although Xinglan currently had a lot of attention on her, she still had the ability to move on to the next level. Plus, Tongning could rely on Xinglan to take her first step towards superstar media. The public was still unaware of superstar media's existence, so there was no need to sign Xinglan with Hai Rui so soon. Seeing Mo Ting's reaction, Fang Yu laughed. Tongning is quite ambitious. But there are so many people in the industry that want to be famous, but can't do it. Can she save them all? Why does the entertainment industry, which relies on luck, have to be so fair? It's so annoying. Ting lifted his head and glared at him. This has nothing to do with you. Yu shrugged his shoulders in disinterest. Right now, the public was fighting for Xinglan. Plenty of famous agencies were throwing olive branches at her with generous offers. If Xinglan couldn't resist the temptation and ended up running away with someone, wouldn't Tongning's efforts be in vain? Yu's worries weren't unreasonable. After all, there were plenty of people that had already contacted the Leaf family in private. On top of that, Xinglan was a passive person. After returning home, Ting told his wife about Yu's worries. Yu's words aren't unreasonable. You need to deal with this matter on your own. Tongning smiled as she placed her son in Ting's arms and raised an eyebrow. Whether it's Xinglan or Luo Sheng, they both know that once they leave superstar media, they are nothing. After all, no one in this world is willing to help those that have failed apart from me. You're that confident? Ting lifted her chin and looked into her eyes. That pair of eyes that were getting more and more interesting were the love and concern of his life. All my confidence comes from the fact that I have an indestructible husband. You are the emperor of the entertainment industry, so I will definitely become the empress. Together, we will protect this empire that we have both worked so hard for. What about these two little fellows? Ting lowered his head to look at the little guy in his arms who was gnawing on his shirt. They're our sons. Of course, we'll let them do whatever they want. Xinglan was on fire. This was the result she expected. Of course, she knew deep down that it was all because of Tongning's scheming behind the scenes. Otherwise, she would still be a music teacher that was being threatened. She also knew that many agencies had approached her to sign a contract, both openly and secretly. However, Lin Qian did not hide any of this from Xinglan. So, she placed all the contracts in front of Xinglan. You're on a roll right now. If you want to sign with other companies, you can look at these contracts. But Xinglan didn't even look at him as she pushed him away. Ning Jie gave me a new lease on life, so I will naturally continue to follow her. You need to understand. According to Ning Jie, you should continue to participate in the competition and take first place. That is the only way you will be deserving of your title. I've thought it through. I don't want to be opportunistic and miss out on such a good opportunity. Xinglan replied firmly. Lin Qian nodded. That's good. From now on, you'll have to cooperate for the next match. I will do my best. Afterwards, Xinglan returned to the competition venue. But because she had already gained popularity, she was surrounded by reporters wherever she went. When the other contestants saw this, they all looked at her uncomfortably. Wasn't it obvious? Xinglan had caused such a huge commotion and gained so much popularity in advance. Wasn't this unfair to the other contestants? Some of the contestants even formed teams to complain to the organizers about this issue. But Xinglan hadn't broken any rules, so it was unreasonable for the organizers to ask her to withdraw from the competition. She can already sign with an agency. Why should she fight with us for first place? Exactly. Is she here to show off her hard work? Does she really think that she can win first place? I've never seen someone as selfish as her. Xinglan had no idea why people were looking at her in such a strange way. She simply felt that everyone was looking at her with ill intentions. Their eyes were filled with ridicule and judgment. It made her feel uncomfortable. Xinglan, I heard that you haven't signed with any agency. Why is that? Are they not good enough for you? During a meeting on set, one of the contestants couldn't help but ask, everyone thinks that you're ready to debut. Why are you still suffering like everyone else? My agency is called Superstar Media. I have no intention of changing. But no one has heard of this agency before. Xinglan smiled, but did not explain. Afterwards, the conversation between the two turned into a conversation about how Xinglan didn't care about any agency's offers because she believed that she could become one of the best. This Xinglan is quite arrogant. I don't know what she's so arrogant about. After the storm blows over, she'll just be a normal contestant. As a result, the scandal of Xinglan acting like a big shot before she even debuted was once again revealed. The media did not manage to find an opportunity to interview Xinglan, but they did hear a lot about her. But they had no idea what kind of person she was. It was almost time for the top 64 out of 100 competition, but Xinglan was still caught up in the whirlpool of rumors. Tongning did not arrange for Lin Qian to clarify the situation. After all, there was going to be a bigger piece of news soon. But before that, Tongning asked Long Jie to arrange a meeting with Luo Sheng. Caring about one thing and losing sight of another was not Tongning's style. In reality, Luo Sheng was not upset that Tongning was giving Xinglan more attention. After all, he had already found his place. But when he saw Tongning, he couldn't help but be excited. Ning Jie, it's all thanks to you that I'm where I am today. Although I'm still acting as the second male lead, I've already secured myself a huge deal. It won't be long before it's officially announced. I'll do my best for you. I really like this feeling of being grounded and not relying on others. Plus, I've discovered that acting is really addictive. Don't worry, even if I can't reach your level, I will still use you as my motivation to move forward. I'll work hard. Soon, everyone in the world will know of Superstar Media's existence. Superstar Media only accepts the best seedlings. Not everyone can catch my eye. Tongning's words made Luo Sheng's blood boil. He knew that Tongning only accepted talented artists that had no chance of becoming famous. Tongning simply wanted to bring back those that had lost their lives. I'm confident that, like Hai Rui, Superstar Media will be remembered by everyone. Chapter 844. Of course, these were the last words Tongning said to Luo Sheng that night. Afterwards, Mo Ting forcefully escorted her back to Hyatt Regency. Tomorrow was the day of Xinglan's competition. As the boss behind the scenes, Tongning decided to make a high-profile appearance. The competition after the top 100 would have a new competition format. The contestants would all be wearing the same costume. The competition this time was still a group of 5 people, and the scores would be ranked from high to low. The top 3 would advance directly, while the bottom 2 would be eliminated or remain to be determined. The remaining 4 spots were left to prevent a tie in the group or to prevent the judges from hesitating. In short, there would be a second round of elimination in the undetermined area. Amongst the contestants, the strength of the contestants was relatively balanced. So far, there had not been any outstanding contestants apart from Xinglan. So, everyone looked at Xinglan with hostility, especially those that were in the same group as her. She clearly didn't need it, although I don't know why you insist on competing. If I were you, I would also want to win the championship. Although your agency is saying that you are talented and have the potential to become famous, you have yet to win any awards. If one day you become outdated, this will be the reason for your agency to abandon you. A contestant in Xinglan's group smiled. This surprised Xinglan. She never expected that someone could see through her. Looking at the man again, he was small in stature and had a pair of clear eyes. This was Xinglan's experience as a teacher. Generally speaking, someone with such clear eyes couldn't be a bad person. Hello, my opponent. I look forward to your performance. Xinglan responded with a smile, but she was ridiculed by the others. I thought you were smart. Can't you tell that he's trying to get close to you? However, you don't have any connections. You're just from a small workshop. Exactly, a small workshop. Xinglan couldn't help but laugh inside. If these people found out who the boss of this small workshop was, they would go crazy. I heard that there will be a special guest in the audience tonight. Do you know who it is? I don't know. I just passed by the director's break room and accidentally heard it. Even if it's a big shot, it has nothing to do with us. Xinglan heard the discussions around her, but her expression remained indifferent. She didn't care because Tongning hadn't told anyone that she would be attending. Everyone assumed she was simply a big boss from a record company that was here to scout for potential talent. But little did they know, this person's appearance caused a huge commotion. Why was it so sensational? Because wherever she went, she was a legend. Tonight, the true battle between kings was about to begin. Everyone was about to reveal their true strength. It turned out Xinglan wasn't the only one that had been holding back. Luckily, She had listened to Tong Ning's advice and didn't reveal her true strength. Otherwise, she would have been buried under a pile of surprises. The competition was about to begin. The circle would definitely be in an uproar tonight. Because the competition had not yet begun, the audience, whether it was the judges or the jury, were all using their phones to spread a message. Guess who I saw? Did I see Tong Ning on the field? Why is Tong Ning in a place like this? Is there something wrong with my eyes? At this time, Long Jie was sitting in Superstar Media's office. She couldn't see the entrance that was originally reserved for the competition, so she couldn't help but laugh as she received news about Tong Ning. As expected, my Ning is still my Ning. Even though she hasn't appeared for so long, the commotion she's caused can't be underestimated. It's time for Superstar Media to perform. After speaking, Long Jie pressed on the enter key and announced the establishment of Superstar Media. Oh God! Did you guys see the news? Oh my God! So, Superstar Media was founded by Tong Ning. Soon, news about the competition, Xinglan, and Tong Ning blew up the entire entertainment industry. It turned out because of Su Xian's incident, Tong Ning hadn't actually gone into seclusion. She had actually set up her own agency. And now, she had Luo Sheng and Xinglan, two promising artists under her banner. Did Tong Ning become a boss? No wonder Xinglan's incident was handled so well. Now that we know Tong Ning is a boss, it's no longer strange. She has the ability. Damn, what can Tong Ning not do? A model turned into an actress, and an actress is now a manager and a boss. What kind of life is she playing? Has everyone forgotten that Su Xian committed suicide because of her? Su Xian's suicide was her own choice. What has it got to do with Tong Ning? Haven't you figured it out yet? At this moment, regardless of whether it was good or bad, praising or belittling Tong Ning, everyone pointed to one thing. Tong Ning's brilliance had never been extinguished. It had simply been temporarily overshadowed. Netizens were in a frenzy of discussion because they had never seen an artist that was more tenacious than Tong Ning. It was like no one could beat her down. She can't even protect herself, yet she's trying to help others get ahead. I don't think she'll make it far. Don't forget, Luo Sheng and Xinglan were trash that couldn't possibly make a comeback in the past. It was Tong Ning that gave them their current prospects. Rumor has it that Tong Ning only helps talented newcomers that have been ostracized by others. From the looks of it, Luo Sheng and Xinglan, this is most likely true. She only helps artists that she thinks highly of. Why do I suddenly have the urge to go to her agency? As the competition progressed, news of Tong Ning establishing Superstar Media began to spread throughout Beijing. She was no longer a model nor an actress. Her appearance was simply because she had become the boss behind the scenes. But it was likely that there wouldn't be a second Su Xian that could defeat Tong Ning. After all, there was no way that Su Xian could defeat her. Because of Tong Ning's support, Xinglan successfully advanced to the next round with her performance of Fireworks. Everyone watched as Tong Ning raised her thumb at Xinglan. At this moment, Tong Ning had given Xinglan the greatest honor. She had never been this confident on stage. After the competition, many contestants expressed their envy. Some were jealous, and some even wanted to sign with Tong Ning. But Tong Ning wasn't the type that would fall for just anyone. Superstar Media and Tong Ning were indeed coming with a lot of momentum. This time, she did not take the gentle path, nor did she smile at the public. Instead, her comeback was filled with aggressiveness. At least, when it came to protecting her artists, she wasn't like an outsider that treated her. If she could forgive them, she would. But one look at Li Can's fate, and it was obvious that she would pursue the matter to the end. But there were still a lot of people in the industry that didn't have high hopes for her. Chapter 845. It didn't matter. Just because he wasn't optimistic now didn't mean that he wouldn't be optimistic in the future. Plus, the best thing about Tong Ning being a behind-the-scenes manager was that she could argue with anyone she wanted. She no longer had to worry about her identity as an actress, so she couldn't do as she pleased. For example, when people in the industry heard that Tong Ning had become a manager and specifically supported actors that had previously been eliminated from the entertainment industry, they said that Tong Ning was simply trying to find a microcosm of herself through these insignificant people. Don't forget, she had also been eliminated in the past. In reality, this meant that deep down, Tongning still felt inferior. From a fundamental point of view, this did not change the fact that she was an insignificant person. She did not possess the nobility that people in the industry were born with. If this was the Tongning of the past, she would most likely turn a blind eye to these comments. But now? Sorry, but since she had already become a manager behind the scenes, it was time for others to start a war of words with her. Tongning replied straightforwardly, "If you want to be famous, then just say it. But even if you came looking for me, I wouldn't take you with me." Everyone was stunned when they saw this. Tongning, who had always been unwilling to make enemies in front of others, was now directly attacking them. In fact, her words were so sharp and direct. This was the reality. In the industry, those who were famous had the right to speak. Even though Tongning had retired for so long, when she reappeared in the public eye, she was still the high and mighty Tongning. She hadn't stepped down from her pedestal just because time had passed. Tongning's change was quite surprising. She seemed to be developing in the same way as her husband, Mo Ting. She was capable and ruthless. What's there to be arrogant about? Don't you only have 2 artists under you? Plus, they are both young calves. It won't be too late for you to show off after you achieve better results. This has completely overturned my impression of Tongning. After all, she used to be so quiet. I don't think she's changed. She has always been like this. She will take revenge whenever she has a grudge and complain whenever she has a grudge. Right now, it's probably because of the needs of her manager. If she was still the same as before, her artists would definitely be bullied. The current Tongning makes people feel like she's extremely aggressive. Seeing the public trying to guess the reason for Tongning's change, Fang Yu held onto his tablet and looked at the comments. He then smiled. How has she changed? She has always been like this. Otherwise, how could she have experienced so many ups and downs in the entertainment industry? Seeing Fang Yu's comments on Tongning, Hu Jingjing directly snatched the laptop from his hands. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. It's time we teach these people a lesson. Didn't they bully Tongning in the past? Now that Tongning has finally become a manager, it's time for her to take revenge. I didn't say there was anything wrong with her. Fang Yu explained helplessly. Fine, give me back my laptop. Go and bathe you. I'll rest for a while. Then, Hu Jingjing nibbled on the apple as she scrolled through the comments. Does Tongning need trash like you to worry about her? Save it. Indeed, although Tongning only had 2 artists in her hands, they were both artists that had been eliminated from the entertainment industry once. Yet, under Tongning's banner, they had actually come back from the dead. What did this mean? Tongning had the ability to make a comeback. This was the reason why she dared to announce the establishment of an agency in such a high-profile manner. Xinglan is doing fine. Her future should be relatively stable. But Luo Sheng has been acting as a supporting actor ever since he appeared in an idol drama. I don't think he has a bright future ahead of him. In this industry, there are a lot of young faces debuting every day. After a while, who will remember him? Indeed, ever since Luo Sheng appeared in a popular idol drama, Tongning had never done anything to maintain his popularity. But this didn't mean that he had no future. Not long after Xinglan advanced to the top 64, Luo Sheng was cast as one of the male leads in the upcoming large-scale martial arts drama, Red Flame. This role was something that many young actors fought over. But no one expected that a supporting actor would appear out of nowhere and snatch away one of the male leads. This was something that Luo Sheng had personally negotiated. With the recommendation of the director, he had a tacit understanding with the investors of the drama. Did he get this opportunity from selling his chrysanthemums? Otherwise, why would such a good opportunity end up in the hands of a 10,000-year-old supporting actor? I can't deny that he looks good, but he is still a newcomer. What right does he have to secure an opportunity like this? What tricks did Tongning use? I can't accept this. Fans were extremely unhappy that Luo Sheng had secured an opportunity and felt that he didn't have the ability to do so. What right did he have to compete with a young actor that had been in the industry for many years and had accumulated a lot of popularity? But when it came to Tongning, everything would make sense. Tongning responded via the studio, "I'm sorry. Those that are doubting my artist's ability to secure an opportunity, please ask your actor if his or her acting is good enough. I welcome him to train under me." Everyone knew that Tongning didn't have the right to talk about acting. But this was exactly what people criticized about these young actors. No matter how popular and handsome they were, they had no acting skills and couldn't produce anything good. So, why couldn't Luo Sheng secure an opportunity? As soon as Tongning said this, the fans were so speechless that they had no choice but to shut their mouths. Who told their artist to not live up to expectations and not be good at acting? That night, Ting returned home to find his wife bathing the babies in the bathroom. He immediately removed his jacket and knelt down in front of Tongning to help her secure the baby's limbs. "You seem to be having a lot of fun." Ting was referring to how Tongning had personally confronted her fans. "If I had known that being a manager could be so fun, I would have thrown myself into it from the start." Tongning replied as she helped her sons put on their clothes. "I feel like this is more fulfilling than acting or winning an award." She knew she could use her abilities to help the industry change. Even if it was just a little, she felt it was worth it. Ting smiled and gave his sons a kiss. He then lifted Tongning's chin and kissed her. "Don't make too many enemies." "So what if I do? Are you going to ignore me?" Tongning asked. Ting smiled helplessly as he patted his wife on the head lovingly and stood up. How could he ignore her? He was merely saying it. After all, he was someone that cleaned up Tongning's mess 24/7. He was more than willing to do so. Unfortunately, Tongning never needed him to worry about her. Chapter 846. After coaxing the two kids to sleep, Ting carried her in his arms and placed her on the bed. He then placed his body on top of hers and placed his nose against hers. "You're having fun, but it seems like you've been neglecting your husband for a long time, hey?" Tongning wanted to refute. This man was wrongly accusing her. He practically begged her every night. What did he mean by neglecting him? But before she could complain, Ting sealed her lips with a kiss. Then, the sound of pajamas being torn came from the bedroom. She didn't know why. Even though Ting was already 34 years old, she was still infatuated with his strong body. In particular, she had a habit of grabbing his neck. It seemed she would never be able to change it in this lifetime. "No matter what you do, I'll be behind you. Even if the sky falls, I'll hold it up for you." This was what Ting whispered into her ear before she fell asleep. Tongning let out a gentle "aha." It wasn't clear whether she heard him or not, but she subconsciously tightened her arms around Ting's waist and quickly fell asleep. Xinglan advanced in a domineering manner, while Luo Sheng secured a great deal of resources. Tongning had forcefully changed the two women's fates, and now she had made a good start for superstar media's future. Because of this, those that said they didn't want her, but were actually honest, still contacted Tongning through Long Jie. They actually wanted to sign with her agency to train themselves. These people finally know how to curry favor with me. Long Jie ignored all the invitations from the most popular artists. They have a lot of resources in their hands, yet they don't know how to make use of them. Do they think they can get away with it through you? Superstar media doesn't have the time to entertain you. Once an artist is famous, they naturally want to become even more famous. This is human nature, Tongning replied. In that case, do you want to participate in a celebrity interview? Long Jie waved the invitation in her hand. Isn't this the benefit of being a manager now? If you want to reject it, just reject it. Tongning raised an eyebrow at Long Jie. Reject them. I have already retired behind the scenes. I have no intention of appearing on screen. Because Tongning was once again looking for a new artist. She no longer needed to worry about Luo Sheng, and Xinglan was on the right track, so she didn't need to waste too much energy. However, at this moment a small interlude occurred. Someone wanted to meet Tongning, and they were very mysterious. They insisted on meeting her at night. Ever since Tongning quit being an actress, she had a lot more freedom. After all, she no longer acted in films, so she was no longer as afraid of the media. It didn't take long before Tongning and Long Jie arrived at the meeting place. As for the person that wanted to see Tongning, she wasn't a newcomer. To be exact, she was quite famous in the industry. However, her reputation had always been black and red. In other words, she wanted Tongning to help her clear her name. I think you got the wrong person. Tongning replied. Why? If you can clear Luo Sheng and Xinglan's names, why can't you help me? The man looked a little disappointed. I can't sleep because of the rumors in the industry. I haven't had a good night's sleep in a long time. I didn't clear their names because they didn't do anything wrong to begin with. Tongning raised an eyebrow. Her meaning was obvious. What about you? Tongning had already heard about the rumors surrounding this woman. She had done a lot of stupid things, so in the eyes of the public, she was full of drama and had plenty of black marks. For many years in a row, she had been one of the most hated artists in the nation. I didn't do anything wrong, the woman replied honestly. Tongning looked into her eyes. The two stared at each other for about 10 seconds. During this time, the woman did not retreat and looked straight into Tongning's eyes. What did this mean? She wasn't lying. This is a challenge for you, isn't it? If you can clear my name, then who else can't you make famous? I need to assess the situation first, Tongning replied straightforwardly. I don't fully trust what you're saying. I'll give you an answer after I've done my research. My contract with the agency is about to expire. Although I'm black and red, I've still made quite a bit of money for the agency. But I'm sure you understand the rules of the industry. Once I lose my value, it's only a matter of time before the agency betrays me. Tongning looked deeply into the woman's eyes. She didn't know why, but her gaze made her feel uncomfortable. She thought about herself. Afterwards, Tongning and Long Jie left the hotel. However, on the way home, Tongning did not say a word. At this moment, Long Jie couldn't guess what Tongning was thinking. So, she simply said what she thought. Our original intention for establishing Superstar Media was to change the environment of the entertainment industry. We wanted more actors to focus on acting and singers to have more professional singing skills. Although logic tells me that I shouldn't get involved with this artist, I still want to help her emotionally, just like how I wanted to help you in the past. You and I both know how bad the industry is. Some people are lucky enough to find a good agency and use a few tricks up their sleeves to become famous and win everyone's praise. But more often than not, there are unscrupulous agencies that simply want to make a quick buck. I'm sure you know this better than I do. After all, you've already seen the ugly side of many agencies. I don't want to interfere with your decision. After all, signing an artist like this is a big risk. In fact, we might even go down in history. But look at you, Tongning lowered her head in deep thought. After quite some time, she finally replied, "Give me all the information you can on this artist as soon as possible. As soon as I find out that she's a bad person, I will not consider her again. Don't worry, I'll do my own research." It was easy for her to manage people like Red Star, Lan Xing, and Luo Sheng. But if she wanted to clear the name of an artist that looked like she was eating shit in everyone's eyes, it was going to be a little difficult. It was very different from saving her own career. For example, if you were asked to like an artist that you hated for a long time, you would need to make them lose their memories in order to turn the situation around. After returning home, Tongning immediately told Mo Ting about the situation. After hearing about it, Mo Ting couldn't help but smile. Your expression tells me that you've already started paving the way for her. Is it that obvious? Tongning asked Mo Ting curiously. It's not obvious. It's because I know you. This challenge is too big, and you like the excitement. After speaking, Mo Ting pulled Tongning into his embrace. Admit it, Mrs. Mo, you also like the feeling of being conquered. But if you really want to sign this artist, you can't reveal it to the public. Otherwise, it will only backfire. After all, the signs of clearing her name would become very obvious. Okay, Mr. Mo, Tongning couldn't help but place a kiss on Mo Ting's lips. Chapter 847. Xia Hanmo, an artist under 1,000 Pictures Entertainment. She debuted at the age of 21 in a television series and became popular for a while. Later on, she was accused of having a mistress, being a godfather, and being a flirt. Because of the failure of the PR team, it's normal for Xia Hanmo to be slandered. Even if it's just a sip of water, it's still exaggerated by the media. That's also a skill. Although she's a bit brainless, she's kind. Many of her accusations are groundless. Plus, she was betrayed by her team, so she really hasn't done anything that crosses the line. Long Jie told Tongning the information she had found. Basically, he is someone that doesn't know how to survive in the industry. Never thought of quitting? Of course she wants to quit, but how can a person with so many black marks hide from the media? She can only live a few days in peace before she gets slandered from head to toe. So, she is forced to survive in this industry and can't go anywhere else. Long Jie shrugged her shoulders. When you get defamed, it's usually because you're in someone's way or because you're envied. But when she gets defamed, it's because she's stupid. Actually, her manager has a regular contract with the paparazzi. They specialize in selling her defamation to earn extra money. That's quite despicable. Tongning personally received Xia Hamo's information and flipped through it a few times. Why would she need to clear her name? She needs a new head. But there's nothing wrong with her acting. In the industry, there were plenty of people who were hated by netizens for no reason. However, Xia Hamo had reached the pinnacle. What should I do? Deal with her manager first. Normally speaking, if a person is hated without doing anything wrong, it is because the PR team has a bad impression of them. So, correcting them is the only hope. But it's not easy to fool the fans these days. If they stay silent, they say that they're acting. If they respond, they say that they're acting. They can't act pitiful, but they can't refute either. It's harder than anything else. That's why it's challenging, isn't it? Tongning returned home, confused. As soon as she saw her two sons jumping around in their father's arms, she immediately walked over and sat down beside Ting. What if Superstar Media gets dragged down by Xia Hamo? What else can we do? Ting hugged his two sons as he looked at the documents in his hands. Can't you handle it? Pa, Dad. Seeing that her son only knew how to call Ting, Tongning couldn't help but knock him on the head. Call me Mommy. Is this considered flying into a rage out of embarrassment? Mrs. Ting smiled as he put down the contract in his hands and turned to look at Tongning. You've already managed to convince Luo Sheng and Xing Lan, so what if you add another person? Moreover, you're very good at whitewashing. At this moment, Tongning's eyes were bright and filled with confidence. Ting knew she would definitely come up with a solution. The industry could be tricky at times, but Tongning's strength lay in using these subtle relationships. This was an undeniable fact. At the end of the day, what she wanted to deal with was not people, but cyber violence. Xia Hamo's biggest flaw was that she was flirtatious. In the eyes of her fans, she didn't have any self-respect. So, her manager had to take responsibility for this flaw. Plus, there were so many photos of her that it was impossible to clear her name. After thinking it through, Tongning replied to Xia Hamo. She agreed to sign Xia Hamo and arranged to meet her at the agency the next morning. Meanwhile, Xia Hamo's manager had no idea that she was looking for Tongning. Otherwise, things wouldn't be so peaceful. The next morning, Xia Hamo arrived at the entrance of Superstar Media early in the morning. She did not want to be targeted by the media. Afterwards, Tongning took her to her office, and the two women sat down to discuss things. Are you aware of what your manager has done to you? Tongning asked straightforwardly. What about my manager? Obviously, Xia Hamo had no idea what was going on. As expected, Tongning really wanted to replace Xia Hamo's head. Your manager has been taking photos of you for a long time and handing them to the paparazzi for personal gain. That's why you've been slandered all this time, Tongning replied. After hearing Tongning's words, Xia Hamo revealed a smile that looked worse than a crying face. I was wondering why she was willing to help me wholeheartedly. It turns out she's sucking blood from me. To think I've been so good to her. After hearing Xia Hamo's mumble, Tongning suddenly did not use a harsh tone to provoke her. Instead, she said something with a deeper meaning. In this world, not everyone appreciates your kindness. Xia Hamo nodded her head and took a deep breath. In that case, what should I do now? You should stay at home like a princess and be doted on. You shouldn't be out earning money. You've already investigated my identity. Why must you rub salt on someone's wound? My brother needs money to stay in the hospital. So, even if it was a scandal, she still persisted. Hamo's family wasn't well off, so she knew a long time ago that she wouldn't make it as an artist. But she continued to hold on because she wanted her brother to have a better treatment environment. Let's get straight to the point. I don't think there's any point in wasting time. In reality, Hamo was a loyal person. Her parents passed away when she was young, so she and her brother relied on each other to survive. Unfortunately, her brother was addicted to gambling and even forced her to work at an underground money house. Originally, after Hamo became famous, she could have just ignored her brother. But after seeing her brother fall off a building because of debt collectors, she couldn't let go of her only blood relative. Her weakness was that she was too loyal. Tongning, you need to help me. Because of an event, Hamo's manager went looking for her, but she wasn't home. Seeing Hamo return home on her own, she immediately became cautious. Where did you go? I went for a ride, Hamo replied in a dispirited manner. I know you're troubled by the photo that exposed your underwear, but you've always been like this for so many years. You don't need to care about what the media write about you. I'm fine. Okay, don't forget about tonight's event. I'll be leaving first. The manager reminded Hamo before she turned and left. However, halfway to her home, she received a phone call from the paparazzi. The money has arrived. Same as before. Yes, I understand. I heard your contract with Hamo is about to end. How many more times can you sell her? According to our relationship, taking a few nude photos is a piece of cake. Consider this as me sending her off on her last journey. What do you think? The paparazzi on the other end of the phone laughed. She's been under your control for 4 years. I can't believe you actually made your move. A woman's heart is truly vicious. There's money to be made, yet you still have so much to say. After hearing Tongning's words, Hamo pretended to drop something at home and turned on her flashlight to search for it. Her motive was to check for any surveillance cameras. It turned out her manager had been monitoring her everywhere. Chapter 848. Hamo was so scared that she returned to Superstar Media. After all, there were pinhole cameras in every room. Long Jie immediately handed her a set of clothes. You can't stay there anymore. Are we going to show our cards now? I don't know what else the manager has on me. In fact, Hamo trembled in fear. She couldn't believe that she had been under someone's surveillance for so long. Fuck, I've never seen such a disgusting manager. This piece of trash has broken all the rules of the industry. Long Jie couldn't help but curse. Tongning glanced at the two women and instructed Long Jie. First, take control of the paparazzi that's been working with this piece of trash for a long time. Try to get as much evidence as you can from him. That's a piece of cake, Long Jie said as she made an okay gesture. Hamo didn't dare to return to her apartment, so she stayed in Superstar Media's studio for quite some time. That afternoon, Long Jie finally notified her that they had obtained the evidence to shut the paparazzi up. After all, Superstar Media had a close relationship with Hai Rue, so the paparazzi didn't dare to do something stupid for the sake of some benefits. Now, you can go look for your agency and see if they're willing to deal with this manager. I'm afraid it won't be easy. I know it won't be easy. I'm simply letting you watch a dog-eat-dog show. Sooner or later, you will leave 1,000 Pictures Media, Tongning said. When she was an artist, Tongning was always mindful of her identity and focused on her profession. But after becoming a manager, her capable and experienced aura was completely exposed. All you need to do is do as I say. After careful consideration, Hamo finally nodded her head. Although Hamo no longer had to worry about the event at night, in order not to ruin her reputation, Tongning still instructed Long Jie to deal with the matter. Afterwards, Hamo drove back to 1,000 Pictures Media on her own. Although 1,000 Pictures Media wasn't a famous agency in the industry, they still managed to produce a few popular artists. As soon as Hamo stepped into the office, she immediately told the CEO's secretary, I want to see President Lin. Okay, let me ask if Chief Lin has time first. After the secretary finished speaking, she gave the so-called Chief Lin a call. Just like that, Hamo sat in the waiting room and waited for 2 hours. However, She could clearly hear the sound of a woman laughing in Chief Lin's office. Xia Hanmo couldn't take it anymore, so she pushed open the door and walked in. Xia Hanmo, do you have any manners? The CEO of 1,000 Pictures immediately started to make things difficult for Xia Hanmo. Meanwhile, the beautiful woman beside him also stepped out of the office. Xia Hanmo froze for a second before she took a few steps forward and threw the evidence in her bag at President Lin. She then said bluntly, I would like to ask President Lin if I should still keep a manager that installed a surveillance camera in my home. When Director Lin saw the photo, he was stunned for a moment. Did you make a mistake? If news of this gets out, you and I both know what 1,000 Pictures Entertainment will face. President Lin, I request that my manager be replaced and that she be held legally responsible. Bubbly Foam, are you misunderstanding something? I'm not misunderstanding anything. Either you do as I say, or your reputation will be completely destroyed. After speaking, Xia Hanmo retreated to one side. I'll give you 1 day to give me an answer. After speaking, Xia Hanmo left the office, even though she had no idea why Tongning had asked her to do this. As soon as Xia Hanmo left, President Lin immediately gave Xia Hanmo's manager a phone call. Xia Hanmo found out about you. Come over to my place tonight. On the surface, the two seemed to have a superior and subordinate relationship, but in reality, they were lovers. Tongning asked Xia Hanmo to expose the fact that she was being monitored because she wanted evidence of their private meeting. If she didn't take advantage of this opportunity to destroy 1,000 Pictures Entertainment, Xia Hanmo would forever have to worry about the consequences. Most importantly, she had a grudge against 1,000 Pictures Entertainment. Although the incident with Su Xen had already been blown away by the wind, it was still there in her heart. She still remembered the names of the people on the list. At this moment, Hai Rui was brightly lit. Lu Che found out about Tongning's plan from Long Jie, so he asked, President, is the madam trying to get revenge? As long as she's happy, Mo Ting replied calmly. Inspect Tongning's plan in detail to see if there are any loopholes. Make sure nothing goes wrong. I don't want those random people to upset her. After hearing Mo Ting's words, Lu Che sighed. As expected, in Mo Ting's world, Tongning would always be number one, and no one could replace her. Regardless of whether Tongning could clear her name by signing with Xia Hanmo, she was going to break free from her previous agency. Once and for all, this was the best solution. Putting Xia Hanmo's matter aside for now, 1,000 Pictures Entertainment was going to disappear from the face of the earth. That night, Xia Hanmo's manager snuck into President Lin's villa sneakily. As soon as the couple saw each other, they made out before they got down to business. For tonight's event, the organizers replaced Xia Hanmo with someone else. How embarrassing. I actually ran over. We can't keep Xia Hanmo around. Her contract with the agency is about to expire. After we suck her dry, we can give up, President Lin said as he wrapped his arm around the woman in the dark. Who told you to be so careless? How dare a piece of trash like her complain to you about me? There's not a single person in Beijing that likes her. She's still so full of herself, the manager humphed. I want to see if she'll be torn apart by her haters after leaving 1,000 Pictures Entertainment. What are you talking about? Apart from 1,000 Pictures Entertainment, who else would dare to sign her? The manager chuckled. Afterwards, the couple once again immersed themselves in their lovemaking. However, they did not notice that, opposite the villa, their every move was being recorded by cameras. As for who would dare to sign Xia Hanmo, wasn't it obvious? After all, Xia Hanmo was still quite famous in Beijing, even though she was a notorious celebrity. However, Tongning never took the normal path, so she didn't mind. All that mattered now was who would win. But before that, let's see what the public had to say about Xia Hanmo. Xia Hanmo, you're so annoying. What's your reason? No, you're just annoying. I don't feel anything. All I know is that she's done a lot of embarrassing things. Big-breasted, brainless, and flirtatious. In reality, Xia Hanmo's emotions only took up half of her brain, so she had no other place to think. Up until this point, she still had no idea what Tongning's plan was. But, of course, Tongning had no intention of letting her know. The next day, Xia Hanmo's manager contacted the paparazzi from before and told him that he had a lot of evidence on Xia Hanmo, a bunch of nude photos, but the paparazzi had already been warned by Long Jie, so he told Xia Hanmo's manager that he wanted to buy them all out. The manager was decisive. After all, she wanted to get rid of Xia Hanmo cleanly. She didn't want to have anything to do with the idiot again. This was the last time, so there was no point in keeping the photos. Chapter 849. After the photos were sold, Xia Hanmo's manager sat at home and counted the money. But no matter how long she waited, there was no news about Xia Hanmo. Xia Hanmo's manager called the paparazzi. Although she had already sold the photos and Xia Hanmo had nothing to do with her, she couldn't forget that Xia Hanmo had complained to President Lin. Because of this, she wanted to see Xia Hanmo's reputation completely destroyed. At this time, Xia Hanmo went to the company again to look for President Lin to terminate her contract. President Lin knew what his lover had done. He couldn't wait for Xia Hanmo to break up with Qianing. That way, Qianing wouldn't be implicated. It was a good time to take advantage of the fact that the photos had not been released yet. Hanmo, the agency has treated you well over the years. Now that you've asked to terminate your contract, the agency won't make things difficult for you. I'll send you a contract termination certificate right now. I hope you'll have a better future. As for the penalty fee, I won't bother you. We'll part on good terms. It's great that President Lin is so magnanimous, Xia Hanmo replied with a smile. She was about to become a slut that everyone wanted to punish. It was only at this moment that she could enjoy the last bit of peace. President Lin drafted the contract termination agreement for Xia Hanmo in the fastest time in history. Both parties signed it in less than 2 hours. Now that the contract has been canceled, can President Lin settle the debt with me as a manager? If you don't, I'll bring it to the court. Originally, he thought that Xia Hanmo would be satisfied after terminating the contract without any compensation. He never expected that she would say such a thing. President Lin was stunned for a moment. He saw that Xia Hanmo's expression had changed. Hanmo, aren't you being ungrateful? The company has already been extremely benevolent to you. All these years, the company has been very happy to sell me out. Xia Hanmo's voice was a little cold. President Lin, all these years that I've signed with 1,000 Pictures Entertainment, I've always thought of myself as conscientious and conscientious. I've always listened to the company's arrangements, but you've gotten my manager to sell me out so thoroughly. What nonsense are you spouting? President Lin's temper flared as he yelled. You are no longer an artist of 1,000 Pictures Entertainment, and your contract has already been terminated. Are you trying to extort money from the agency? Xia Hanmo, do you have any shame? I told you I don't want money, I just want to deal with my ex-manager. Don't pester me. Get lost. President Lin, you're forcing me to blow things up, Xia Hanmo said calmly. You? Premier Lin straightened his black tie and laughed in ridicule. You don't even have a backer anymore. How much trouble do you think you can cause in this industry? Do you think you can find another one? I'm telling you, no one in this industry would dare to sign you. You don't have to worry about that, Director Lin. After speaking, Xia Hanmo pulled out her phone and made a phone call to her lawyer right in front of President Lin. Submit this information to the court. While you're at it, we'll also take 1,000 Pictures agency to court. The scandal of President Lin and his lover scheming against an artist and breaking their contract is sure to cause quite a stir. President Lin was stunned. He did not expect Xia Hanmo to know about his private life. How did you? I know more than you think. After speaking, Xia Hanmo stood up and walked out of President Lin's office. Even though President Lin was angry, he did not take Xia Hanmo to heart. After all, she was about to lose her reputation. So, who would believe her words? Little slut, you've overestimated yourself. President Lin had foolishly let Xia Hanmo go. He originally thought that all that awaited Xia Hanmo was destruction. But not long after, his secretary knocked on the door and said hesitantly, President Lin, someone from the agency seemed to have seen. Seen what? President Lin asked impatiently. Seen Tongning pick up Xia Hanmo in her car. What? It seems Xia Hanmo has signed with Superstar Media. President Lin was completely stunned. Tongning, how did Xia Hanmo get involved with Tongning? Are you sure you didn't see wrong? A lot of people saw it. The secretary replied timidly. Tongning, I can't believe that slut managed to seduce Tongning. President Lin was a little anxious. After all, he knew better than anyone who Tongning was. Not only did Tongning have a vengeful personality and had never lost in the industry, but the fact that Xia Hanmo schemed to cancel his contract was enough to make him angry for a long time. Don't worry. Even if Xia Hanmo signs with Superstar Media, she won't be able to make a comeback. After all, she's about to lose her reputation. Unfortunately, President Lin was wrong again, because 10 minutes later, President Lin received a parcel from Superstar Media. As for the content, it was, of course, extremely erotic and unbearable to look at. President Lin was so scared that his face turned pale. Immediately contact Superstar Media. No. Invite the person in charge of Superstar Media. I want to see Tongning. The secretary called Superstar Media, but the response she received was, I'm not free. Not only was she not free, Longjie even added, Xia Hanmo and 8,000 Pictures Media no longer have anything to do with each other. As for President Lin, you can either sacrifice yourself to protect your lover, or you can destroy your lover and protect yourself. Even an idiot would know what to choose. Of course, President Lin chose to protect himself. However, things like this often escalated into a dog-eat-dog situation where both sides suffered. But none of this had anything to do with Xia Hanmo. Meanwhile, Tongning simply sat back and watched the show. Why didn't you expose the two women? Xia Hanmo asked. Are you going to let them find an opportunity to escape? This matter will be exposed sooner or later, but not now. Between President Lin and your manager, who do you think is easy to deal with? In the end, they will both end up dying together. From now on, you should focus on how to clear your name, not on someone else, Tongning explained with a smile. These two things can be done at the same time. But didn't President Immerse say that you didn't want the public to know that you signed me? That depends on the situation. I don't think it's a bad idea to let the public know, Tongning replied with a deeper meaning. Xia Hanmo did not say another word. However, she was still uncertain about the future. But Tongning understood Xia Hanmo's position. She wasn't suited to continue staying in the industry. All she needed to do right now was to clear her name and stop attracting attention from the media. Do you like to travel? Why do you ask? Xia Hanmo asked. Nothing. Go home and have a good night's sleep. From tomorrow onwards, everything will be brand new. Tongning patted Xia Hanmo on the shoulder. Trust me, didn't Xia Hanmo look for Tongning because she trusted her? But it was too difficult to clear her name. But since Tongning promised she was going to do it. Chapter 850. News that Superstar Media had signed Xia Hanmo quickly spread throughout the industry. Many people couldn't understand. Was Tongning trying to whitewash a pile of shit? It wasn't that the public didn't have high hopes for Xia Hanmo, but Xia Hanmo was simply too shady. She was so shady on social media that she couldn't even be described in 9 pictures. Was she digging her own grave? Is Tongning getting arrogant after becoming famous with 2 artists? How dare you provoke Xia Hanmo? She deserves praise for her courage. Xia Hanmo is a malignant tumor. The only reason she's still popular is because she's easy to scold. Yet, Tongning still wants to pick up a treasure. If Tongning can even clear Xia Hanmo's name, I think I can change my outlook on life and admire her from the bottom of my heart. The public were extremely confused by Tongning's signing with Xia Hanmo. Some even scolded her for being stupid. However, it was also at this time that a joke about 1,000 Pictures began to spread throughout the industry. The boss of 1,000 Pictures Entertainment kicked out Xia Hanmo's manager for using her artist for personal gain. Then, the manager revealed their relationship in front of President Lin's wife. Now, President Lin's wife was going to kick President Lin out of 1,000 Pictures Entertainment. Every hour, the 3 of them would come up with something new to laugh about. Of course, as the fight between the 3 of them escalated, The fact that their managers often sold dirt on their artists to the paparazzi was also exposed. Needless to say, the person being sold was Xia Hanmo. But it takes two hands to clap. If it wasn't for the support of the CEO of 1,000 Pictures Entertainment, how would the manager have the guts to do this? The funniest thing was, Xia Hanmo didn't even need to make a move. President Lin's wife had already taken the couple to court. So, the three of them had a particularly ugly argument. But it wasn't hard to guess the outcome. As the mistress's manager, she and CEO Lin would definitely have to leave the family with nothing. There was no room for discussion. Not only that, his first wife even got someone to beat them up. Originally, since Xia Hanmo was the victim, Superstar Media was supposed to exaggerate and say that everything that happened in the past had nothing to do with her and that it was all her manager's betrayal. But Superstar Media did nothing and did not allow Xia Hanmo to cry and complain. Just like that, she left 1,000 Shadows Entertainment all alone. She didn't fight or cause trouble. What was Tongning trying to do? In reality, Tongning's plan was simple. Late at night, Hyatt Regency. After giving the two sons a bath, Tongning headed into Mo Ting's study room. She looked through the various articles Xia Hanmo had posted on social media, as well as her travel experiences. Only when Xia Hanmo posted these things did she attract less criticism. As a celebrity that couldn't even breathe properly, the first thing Xia Hanmo needed to do was try her best not to appear in front of the public. Tongning sat in the study room contemplating a problem. If she forced Xia Hanmo out of the industry, it would be equivalent to cutting off her source of income. After all, her brother's treatment required a lot of money. However, he couldn't let her continue acting, because it was useless to clear her name. To her, whether she had the ability or not, she would still be blacklisted. Mo Ting came out of the bathroom. Seeing that Tongning had not returned to the bedroom, he pushed open the door and entered the study room. "What are you thinking about? Why are you so engrossed?" "I'm thinking of a bold idea, but I've never done it before, so I don't know the risks," Tongning said as she lifted her head. "Xia Hanmo is too unique. If you're worried about your artist, you can't ignore your own health. It's already past 11 p.m. Go to bed," Mo Ting said as he crossed his arms. "Can you help me evaluate it?" "Sure, but I can only discuss it in bed." Mo Ting raised an eyebrow. Tongning thought for a few seconds, but did not move. It wasn't until Mo Ting waved at her that Tongning finally walked over without any resistance. No matter how smart or legendary she appeared to the public, in front of Mo Ting, she would always be the one being led around. She was well aware that in this world, not many people could be like her husband, who was like a true king who always had control over everything in his hands and took care of everything. Towards Mo Ting, apart from deep love, she also admired him like he was her hero. "Tell me about your idea." As Xia Hanmo did not cry and complain, the industry's hatred towards her lessened a little. But it wasn't enough to clear her name. Of course, Tongning didn't expect to change Xia Hanmo's impression of her. After all, under Mo Ting's guidance last night, she had a better understanding of her idea. Mo Ting's suggestion was that it was feasible, so Tongning felt a lot more courageous. The next morning, Tongning met with Xia Hanmo in her office. She handed Xia Hanmo the information she had prepared the night before and explained, "You have so many fans, it would be a waste to give up on them. Plus, you need to maintain a high income, so I've arranged a very special path for you." "What is it?" "Last night, I read a lot of your articles and diary. I feel this is your strength. So, from now on, your job will be to use the company's budget to go on a trip and post your experiences on social media. You will need to appear in front of everyone with a brand new look." "Sounds like an internet celebrity," Xia Hanmo murmured. "You're right." Tongning smiled. "This is the only path worth taking. You aren't suited to appear in front of the public, but your talent is. Whether your negativity is real or fake doesn't matter to the public. You have a body that absorbs negativity. So, you need to change the way you exist and use something elegant to increase your value. You need to use your current state to tell everyone that no matter how much they hate me, I am focused on living a healthy life. People will quickly develop an acceptance towards the correct values. Plus, your diary is actually quite interesting. Do you want to give it a try? Tongning asked. Travel, writing, maintaining a high level of attention, and most importantly, changing the public's attitude towards her. For Xiahamo, this was too tempting. But I need to warn you first. In the industry, there has never been a case like this. At least for someone like you, who has been ridiculed for no reason, you are still being ridiculed. So, you need to be prepared to fail. I trust you, Xiahamo replied straightforwardly. Don't be in a rush to trust me. I'm not confident in this matter. So, Tongning wanted to see an outcome for Xiahamo. After all, she didn't know what her actions would bring to Xiahamo, especially since it was Tongning's first time experiencing such a reaction from the public. She couldn't imagine it. But Emoting supported Tongning because Superstar Media was a tolerant agency that could allow any artist to exist. And Xiahamo's transformation would prove this point. But would Tongning succeed? What did the public think of Xiahamo's transformation? Chapter 851. Have you guys heard? All of the roles that Xiahamo previously accepted and all of the resources that she had have been given away. Tongning has even compensated for her breach of contract. She's not acting or filming any commercials. What is she trying to do? Who knows what Tongning is thinking? This was the hottest topic in the industry. How was Tongning going to clean up Xiahamo's reputation? But she did not come up with any practical solutions. Instead, she canceled all of Xiahamo's activities and hid her from view. According to the industry, even if Xiahamo were to shed a layer of skin, she would never be able to rebuild her image in others' hearts. So, no matter what Tongning tried to do, it would be useless. How could Xiahamo ever clear her name? But so many eyes were looking at Tongning and Superstar Media. Was this all Tongning was capable of? Help her dye her hair back to black and remove all of her accessories. The stylist looked at Xiahamo sitting in front of the mirror. She didn't quite understand what Tongning's instructions meant. She has too much of a celebrity on her, so I need to simplify her image, Tongning explained. After hearing Tongning's explanation, the stylist finally understood that Tongning was trying to change Xiahamo. To change a person, the most important thing wasn't to change their makeup, but to change their aura. From now on, you will be a travel diary blogger. You will no longer need to wear heavy makeup. When you have time, go and learn photography. From now on, everything that happens in the industry has nothing to do with you, Tongning said as she supported herself with her arms. As for the black marks from the past, you don't need to clean them up. From now on, they will become your story. The stylist was, after all, an ordinary person. So, she had been paying attention to the gossip between Tongning and Xiahamo. Like everyone else, she was curious as to how Tongning planned to clean up Xiahamo's reputation. But it wasn't until Tongning stood right in front of her that she found it unbelievable. Tongning had reorganized Xiahamo's life. From now on, all she needed to do was travel around the world. This sounded like a good path. A few days later, Tongning sent Xiahamo a plane ticket to Turkey. But before that, Xiahamo had one wish. She wanted to hear Xinglan sing. In other words, she wanted to watch Xinglan enter the top 32 of the 64 rounds. But Tongning did not agree to this wish. When you are reborn, I will agree to any request you make. But now, you don't have the right to say no. So, Xiahamo left. Someone spotted Tongning escorting Xiahamo out of the country, but did not make a sound or say a word. She was probably the only artist in the industry that didn't pursue the matter and directly left the place of sorrow after being framed by her former employer. Why didn't Tongning play by the rules? Everyone was waiting for her to come up with a beautiful and impeccable PR plan. Who would have thought that she would directly ask Xiahamo to leave and disappear from the entertainment industry? Long Jia watched as Xiahamo left the country and couldn't help but feel her heartache. Are you sure this will change her fate? I'm not sure. All I know is when she reappears in front of the public, she will definitely be different than she is now, Tongning said confidently. Why did she let Xia Hamo leave like this? It was to preserve the last bit of sympathy the public had for Xia Hamo. Xia Hamo, I'll be waiting for you. Meanwhile, Xinglan's competition was getting more and more intense. Soon, it was time to enter the top 32. Afterwards, Tang arranged for Xinglan and Luo Sheng to meet up. After all, they were both superstar media's artists and had similar experiences, so Xinglan and Luo Sheng couldn't help but sympathize with each other. So, they naturally supported each other on various occasions because they remembered that they were a team and shared all the good and bad things together. As the competition became more intense, Xinglan's reputation once again rose to a new level. Most importantly, she now had a label on her. She was Tangning's artist. Now that she was Tangning's artist, she had a deep impression in everyone's hearts that she would definitely make a comeback. As a result, how many people wanted to join Tangning and find a new path in the entertainment industry? Late at night, the lights at Hyatt Regency were gentle. Tangning spent the entire afternoon preparing a table full of dishes. All she wanted was for Mo Ting to eat a hot meal as soon as he returned home. The two little rascals ran around the living room, while Xia Yuling looked after them. Soon, Mo Ting opened the door and returned home with a cold aura. Mo Zichen immediately pounced into Mo Ting's arms as Mo Zishi sat on the floor and stared blankly at his brother acting coquettishly to his father. Seeing this, Xia Yuling couldn't help but say, "Don't be biased." "I know, Mom." After speaking, Mo Ting put down Zichun and walked over to Zishi. Just as he was about to give him a hug, Zishi immediately pushed Mo Ting's arm away. It seemed he didn't like Mo Ting's concern. This rascal, he already knows how to get angry at such a young age. Xia Yuling shook her head and smiled at Mo Ting. "I'm going to head back first. I'll leave this place to you." "Thanks, Mom." Mo Ting nodded his head. After Xia Yuling left, he knelt down in front of Mo Zishi and carefully examined his son. How should I put it? Mo Zishi's behavior didn't seem like that of a child. He should be precocious. How could he understand the thoughts of adults at such a young age? He didn't believe it. Zishi, Daddy carried Zichen a moment ago because he was afraid he would fall. It's not because he's biased towards Big Brother. Mo Zishi looked at Mo Ting for a few seconds before he suddenly hugged Mo Ting's calf and rubbed his face against his trousers. Mo Ting was speechless. This rascal was definitely going to be a monster. "What's wrong?" Tangning asked curiously as she walked out of the kitchen and saw the scene in front of her. Mo Ting lifted his son up and placed him in the crook of his arm. "Nothing. Since you're fine, let's eat." Tangning lifted Zichen in her arms and took care of one child each. "The higher-ups at Hai Rui aren't rushing you anymore?" Tangning asked as they ate. "After all, I haven't achieved their goal yet. According to Xinglan and Luo Sheng's current development, it won't be long before they sign with Hai Rui. However, they have some complaints regarding Xia Hamo's matter," Mo Ting replied. "But it's enough that you know. Don't worry about it. Don't tell me they think that sending Xia Hamo overseas is the end for her." Tangning lowered her head and smiled. "This is just the beginning. I'm sure that it won't be long before we see the results. It hasn't even been a year yet. No one wants to know about the process. All they care about is the ending," Mo Ting said with a deeper meaning. Everyone saw that Xia Hamo left in a sullen state. Chapter 852. "In that case, let them think that way." Tangning smiled casually. "She needs to become more confident and intelligent. This is what you told me. President Mo, the only reason I sent Xia Hamo overseas was because of your inspiration. Don't expect me to take the blame for this on my own. This has nothing to do with me. Don't even think about dragging me down with you." Mo Ting smiled elegantly. In the past, the public paid too much attention to Xia Hamo because they wanted to hear new scandals about her. At that time, Xia Hamo's manager was the one who regularly released gossip about Xia Hamo. That was how she managed to maintain her reputation. Now that Xia Hamo had signed with Superstar Media, it was no longer easy for the public to hear news about her. But Of course, the public did not care. After all, no matter what method Siahamo used to reappear, her reputation would never be washed away. Although her manager had exposed the scandals, the gossip wasn't completely fake. It didn't take long before Xinglan's next match began. As an up-and-coming singer with the most potential, after entering the top 100, Xinglan showcased her abilities in many aspects and her aura was unstoppable. As the person in charge of Xinglan, Tongning chose to personally attend the competition. However, before she entered the venue, she was inevitably surrounded by reporters. Apart from questions about Xinglan, the reporters also asked about Siahamo. Tongning, can you tell us where Siahamo has been sent to? Has she gone overseas to develop her career? Tongning, do you think you can clear Siahamo's name by doing this? Will Siahamo end up becoming a failure for superstar media? As Tongning walked towards the television station, she quickly responded to the reporters' questions. Siahamo has her own field of expertise. Plus, she doesn't need to clear her name. I don't think she's done anything bad. But her messy private life has created a negative impact on society. That's why she's no longer an actress. That's the price she has to pay. Is there anything else you're not satisfied with? Tongning asked as she shrugged. The reporters froze for a moment. They were suddenly rendered speechless by Tongning's words. Seeing that everyone else had no more questions, Tongning quickened her footsteps and entered the television station. Are you guys crazy? Why do you only know how to ask about Siahamo? Isn't Tongning more interesting than these people? For example, whether she's going to make a comeback, whether she wants to act in films, and why she established superstar media. Aren't these all explosive questions? Some reporters were criticized by their peers. Indeed, Tongning had too many things to focus on. But everyone's thoughts were too narrow-minded. This was where Tongning was smart. She always had a way to give the media something to write about. During the 4 hours of competition, Xinglan once again came out on top. She completely showcased her strength as a talent singer and used her strong mental fortitude to stop her opponents from advancing to the top 64. She was undoubtedly the favorite to win the competition. Tongning's personal support gave Xinglan confidence. After all, she knew that superstar media would always have her back. After the match was over, Tongning celebrated with Xinglan. Meanwhile, everyone looked at her with envy. It was obvious that Xinglan was very satisfied with her current state because her path to stardom was bright. At this time, someone approached Xinglan and offered her a large sum of money to convince her to withdraw from the competition. After all, in everyone's hearts, she was already the champion. Lin Qian immediately rejected them. Xinglan didn't lack money. When Tongning heard about this, she did not have much of a reaction. After all, everything was within her expectations. However, she reminded Lin Qian to pay more attention to Xinglan's safety. After all, it wasn't the first time that a singer had lost their voice due to poison. So, it was better to be safe. As a result, Lin Qian became even more meticulous about Xinglan's life. The competition for the top 16 was in half a month's time, and Xinglan needed to be taken care of. By this time, Siahamo had already been away from Beijing for 7 to 8 days. But the topic of her continued to be brought up by people. It wasn't that Siahamo didn't have fans, but that she had been suppressed for years. Plus, after the baptism of time, these fans had already become die-hard fans of Siahamo. They weren't happy with Tongning's arrangements. Since Superstar Media had already signed Siahamo, they had the responsibility to help her plan her path. But why did they suddenly become semi-transparent? Actually, that wasn't the case. After all, Siahamo's trip to Turkey was coming to an end. It didn't take long before she received a phone call to Tongning. As soon as Tongning heard this, her lips curved upwards. Sure, go ahead. Early the next morning, an article titled, "I'm Doing Well," appeared at the top of the search rankings. And the first thing that popped into the article was a photo of Turkey taken by Siahamo. The article was around 2,000 words long and included 5 to 6 photos. 2 of the photos were of Siahamo's back. She was wearing a long white dress, a straw hat, and sandals as she wandered through the unique streets of Turkey. She looked relaxed and innocent. It was like she had just been relieved of a heavy burden. It seemed Xia Hanmo had completely let go of herself. And it was these two photos that made Xia Hanmo look healthy and intelligent. My past can no longer be changed. Whether it's real or fake, it's still my past. Perhaps being a celebrity doesn't suit me. That's why I'm here as a tourist, attached as a guide on my trip to Turkey. I've also discovered a very useful skincare product that I would like to recommend to everyone. Xia Hanmo used a smiley emoticon for the last sentence. It looked pure and mischievous. On top of that, she really did recommend a very useful skincare product. Everyone that clicked onto the search rankings were curious as to how the article could gain so much popularity. As soon as they saw Xia Hanmo's name on the article, their lips curved upwards and they sneered. It seemed there was more gossip to share. But in the end, everyone fell silent. For the first time, they didn't have any thoughts of defaming Xia Hanmo. She had already given up on being a celebrity. How could they still have the audacity to defame her? Above all, even though she was defamed, she did not give up on herself or blame anyone. Instead, she chose to live her life in a healthy way. So, who would be so bored as to complain and dislike her? If they were in Xia Hanmo's shoes, they would have broken down a long time ago. So, this time, the comments below Xia Hanmo's article became like this. Huh? I'm also using the product that she recommended. I'm rolling my eyes. I've hated this person for so long. Yet she has the same sense of beauty as me and has decided to turn into a passerby. I can't even defame her. What's going on? An anti-fan just happened to pass by and found her cute? I must be blind. Her writing isn't bad. Her handwriting isn't bad either. Even though I know it's a trap, I still can't escape. I admit it. I'll let Xia Hanmo go. Chapter 853. No one expected that Xia Hanmo would be cleared like this. No one expected that Tongning would do it in such a way. Everyone knew that Xia Hanmo's reputation couldn't be cleared and that she was covered in dirt. But not only did she retreat from the public eye, she did not deny the dirt, and she did not cause trouble. Many people once imagined that no matter what method Xia Hanmo chose to return to after signing with Superstar Media, they would continue to ridicule her. But now, they chose to remain silent. Unless one's heart was extremely dark, no one would want to drag a woman that worked so hard to live her life back into the swamp. If someone actually did this, they would definitely be seen as having bad morals. Afterwards, people started to dig up information about Xia Hanmo's brother and why she worked so hard. A lot of people finally understood Xia Hanmo. After all, she was reflecting her own reality. And now, people were starting to feel sorry for Xia Hanmo. Seeing the public's reaction, Long Jie and Lin Xian were relieved. So, they immediately called Tongning to tell her the good news. You did it. Not yet, Tongning replied. She had merely changed a portion of people's opinions of Xia Hanmo. How could that be considered a success? In reality, Xia Hanmo wasn't in a rush. 1 week later, she released another article. This time, she left Turkey and went to a small island in South Africa. She then experienced a night of terror on the island. However, the photos were blacked out. So, she couldn't help but complain that she should have done as Tongning suggested and studied photography. The current Xia Hanmo no longer tried to please the public. Instead, she lived a more independent life. But it was because of this change in attitude that the public began to pay attention to her. Humans were all like this. When a person's life was no longer what you expected, you would be interested in their changes. Because you also desired change and admired it, but you couldn't change it. This was the so-called position that Tongning was referring to. Afterwards, Xia Hanmo coincidentally asked her fans to recommend a good camera. As a result, some of the world's most reputable camera brands left comments below her article. It was this interaction that made the brand laugh. In a short period of time, It even caused a small increase in sales. This was Xia Hamo's current value. In reality, those in the know could easily tell that Xia Hamo had changed careers and knew that Tongning had meticulously planned this out. But one couldn't deny the fact that Tongning's actions had helped Xia Hamo break free from her dark and red body condition. In less than a month's time, Xia Hamo's body condition had changed. In the future, her articles would attract the attention of travel magazines, and her photos would be included in exhibitions. Compared to Xinglan and Mo Ting, her future had already cleared up and was replaced with a bright future. This was Tongning's third artist, but it was enough to prove her PR abilities. However, Superstar Media still had a lot of responsibilities, and Tongning's ambitions had only just begun. But no matter what she did in the outside world, when she was at home, she would always be the same gentle woman and patient mother. Her feelings for Mo Ting had not changed at all. In a few days, Hai Rui will be holding a celebration dinner. I've arranged for you to attend, Mo Ting said in the bathroom before going to bed. Okay, Tongning replied straightforwardly. She wanted the higher-ups at Hai Rui not to worry. Although she had Superstar Media, she was still an artist of Hai Rui. The purpose of the celebration dinner was to celebrate Hai Rui's new artist. Of course, many of Hai Rui's seniors and some of their partners would also attend. That day, Tongning was dressed in a long silver dress, looking elegant and elegant. She exuded an invincible charm. As for Mo Ting, he was still the king of his home turf. His every move was like a commander that made people respect him, but at the same time, fear him. A little while later, Mo Ting went to the bathroom. At this time, a representative from another agency approached Tongning with a glass of champagne. Hello, President Tang. The woman was in her 40s and was obviously a strong woman. But Tongning didn't remember having any contact with her. One of my artists is also participating in a talent competition, the woman explained as she noticed Tongning's confusion. Tongning nodded her head, indicating that she understood. I wonder what President Tang thinks about winning the championship? Of course, it's based on ability, Tongning replied straightforwardly. She could tell what the woman was trying to do. She wanted to swap Xinglan's title with her. Xinglan's future is limitless. Winning first place is simply icing on the cake for her. But I can offer her a lot of benefits in exchange. I want to give my daughter a present. She has also entered the top 32. I wonder if President Tang could do me a favor? I don't think your daughter would want her to win because of her mother. So, I'm sorry, but I have no intention of getting involved in the competition, Tongning replied. Seeing that Tongning wasn't being tactful, the woman left with a cold expression on her face. A moment later, Mo Ting returned to the banquet. Seeing Tongning's cold gaze, he asked, "What's wrong? Someone's trying to talk to you again? Do you think I'm still the same as I was a few years ago?" Tongning comforted. Who would dare to bully me these days? Then, someone is trying to force Xinglan to withdraw from the competition. I've asked Lu Che to arrange for enough people to keep an eye on Xinglan's safety, Mo Ting replied. This was what a married couple was like. With one simple sentence, they understood each other. At this time, Xinglan was still in Superstar Media's practice room, while Lin Qian dutifully accompanied her outside. The couple finally left the agency around 10 p.m. But as soon as they stepped into the underground parking lot, Lin Qian sensed something was wrong. Several men walked out from all directions of the parking lot and surrounded the two of them. Get in the car first. If something goes wrong, immediately run out and call the police, Lin Qian instructed. But what about you? Xinglan roared. Let's run out together. Damn it, there's no signal. How many times have you acted in the movies? Haven't you learned? Lin Qian laughed. After speaking, she pushed Xinglan into the car. Let's go. Xinglan did not hesitate as she drove away. The men immediately split up and chased after the couple. In a panic, Xinglan ran around the parking lot. It wasn't easy for her to find an exit, but the men were already chasing after her. Xinglan decided to give it her all as she charged out of the parking lot and ran towards the crowd. Afterwards, she rolled out of the car and begged for help from the passers-by on the commercial street. "Save my manager, I beg of you." Xinglan had a bit of a reputation, so she attracted quite a bit of attention. Soon, the police in charge of the area were dispatched. The entire process took approximately 5 to 6 minutes. But by the time they returned to the parking lot, Lin Xian was already lying in a pool of blood. If Xia Hamo was said to be a magnet for insults, then Lin Xian was a magnet for injuries. Chapter 854. A talent show singer had been ambushed in public. If news of this got out, there was bound to be another bloodbath. But at this time, Xinglan had no time to care about anything else. All she cared about was Lin Xian's condition. She really shouldn't have left Lin Xian on her own. Although it could have resulted in both of them getting hurt or worse, it was better than feeling guilty right now. The doctor quickly came out of the emergency room and said to Lin Xian, who was sitting in the corridor, "Find a way to contact her family. She has lost too much blood and needs a blood transfusion. Our stock has just been transferred to another hospital." "Will mine work?" "Use mine." "What's your blood type?" "Type A." "In that case, stop talking nonsense. Give her family a phone call. Your blood types don't match." After speaking, the doctor returned to the emergency room. Xinglan held on to Lin Xian's phone. At that moment, there was only one person that came to mind, Quanzai. So, she gave him a phone call without hesitation. 15 minutes later, Quanzai arrived at the hospital. He was still wearing a robe and barefoot. As soon as the doctor came out, Quanzai said, "I have type O blood. What is your relationship with the patient?" The doctor immediately asked. "I am her brother," Quanzai replied. "We have already obtained blood from another hospital, so you can come in first." Although type O blood was known as the universal blood, it couldn't be transfused to people with other blood types because the blood could contain antigens. But a small amount was still acceptable. Xinglan watched as Quanzai entered the emergency room. Not long after, he walked out holding onto his arm. Xinglan immediately ran over to him and realized her voice was a little weak. "Mr. Quan? What the hell happened?" Quanzai asked in a serious tone. This was the first time that Quanzai had completely withdrawn his flirtatious attitude and was extremely serious. "We were attacked," Xinglan replied. "Lin Xian got hurt while trying to protect me." After hearing from Xinglan, Quanzai handed his phone to her. "Save your phone number here." "Okay." Xinglan received the phone and realized her hands were still trembling. It was obvious that she was still in fear. After saving the number, she handed the phone back to Quanzai respectfully. "Don't tell Lin Xian that I was here. I will investigate this matter. Also, Qianair doesn't have any relatives. Tell Lin Ning if Qianair gets hurt again, I will make her pay." Xinglan could sense that Quanzai's heart ached. In fact, he called Lin Xian 3 different ways. But with Lin Xian's stubborn personality, she definitely didn't want her to get too involved with Quanzai. So, Quanzai had to hide it from her. "I understand, Mr. Quan." Afterwards, Xinglan contacted Tongning. At this time, Tongning was already on her way to the hospital. Even though saving a life was her top priority and Xinglan couldn't contact Tongning as soon as possible, the news couldn't be kept a secret. After all, the incident happened in the middle of the city. Soon, the couple arrived at the hospital. "Ning Jie, how's Lin Xian?" Tongning asked. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. Lin Xian just received CPR and has just stabilized. I've never experienced something like this before. I don't know why either," Xinglan said as her tears rolled down her face. "It's fine. It's not your fault," Tongning replied as she hugged Xinglan. "It's all in the past. You're safe now, and Lin Xian will be fine." With Tongning's comfort, Xinglan finally calmed down. Of course, because of Lu Che's arrangements, The hospital was not surrounded by the media. So, Lu Che didn't need Mo Ting's instructions to call the police after he made the necessary arrangements for Lin Qian. There were too many shady things in the industry, but no one dared to mess with Hai Rue. This time, things had gotten out of hand. Tawning had a rough idea of what was going on. Someone was trying to force Xinglan to withdraw from the competition. And the person that was trying to get first place for his daughter was the most suspicious. Soon, Lin Qian woke up from her coma. As soon as she opened her eyes and saw Tongning and the others, the first thing she said was, "Quan Zai was here, wasn't he? I saw him while I was in a daze." "Drink some water first." Xinglan did not respond directly. Instead, she dabbed some warm water on Lin Qian's cracked lips. "Your head was smashed open. Isn't it stitched up now?" Lin Qian joked, trying to lighten the atmosphere. "Don't mention it." Xinglan was already feeling guilty. Seeing that Lin Qian was pretending to be strong, she felt even more guilty. "I'm now your savior." Lin Qian winked at Tongning and Xinglan. "You still haven't answered my question. Did Quanzai come here? Do you want him to come or not?" Tongning asked as she approached Xinglan. "Logically, I hope he never came. But emotionally, after all these years, he's my only family. He came here. After giving you a blood transfusion, he left. He sped all the way here, and the traffic police were waiting for him downstairs. They chased him all the way to the hospital. This will definitely be published in the papers tomorrow," Xinglan explained. After hearing this, Lin Qian slowly closed her eyes. It had been a long time since she felt this warmth. "I'm fine. I will give you an explanation for this matter," Tongning said. "Ningjia, I can roughly guess what happened. It's my fault for being careless and staying at the office with Xinglan so late at night." Xinglan held back her thoughts and decided to tell Tongning. "Before Quanzai left, he told me that if you let Lin Qian get hurt again, he would come looking for you. You guys can go home. I'm fine." "There will definitely be big news tomorrow." Lin Qian waved her hand weakly. "There's a nurse here." Tawning glanced at Lin Qian and had a guess. "So," she said to Xinglan, "let's go home and get some rest." "I want to stay." "Why would you want to stay?" "Someone knows how to take care of you," Tawning hinted as she led Xinglan away. Mo Ting protected his wife the entire time. His eyes were filled with anger. If someone dared to scheme against Tawning like this, Beijing would be turned upside down. Not long after, Lin Qian lifted her head and tried her best to look outside. She could sense that there was someone outside, so she sighed. "Come in." Quanzai crossed his arms as he leaned against the door and shook his head. "I'll stay here to watch over you. Go to sleep." "Come in." "Didn't you say you didn't want to see me?" Quanzai asked through the door. Qian, either let me take care of you or find someone to take care of you. Don't let me see you all alone. That would be worse than killing me. After all, as your brother, I've taken care of you for so many years. I just don't know how to face you." "I'm also conflicted and struggling," Lin Qian replied. "After all, I want the two of us to live with dignity." Chapter 855. Quanzai was well aware of how stubborn Lin Qian was. As long as she set her mind on something, there was no way she could change it. That night, Lin Qian was in the hospital room while Quanzai was outside. Meanwhile, the outside world was in chaos. First, the video of Xinglan being attacked and asking for help was uploaded online. Then, news of Quanzai being chased by the police while speeding spread like wildfire. But everyone understood Quanzai's actions. After all, Xinglan's manager was Lin Qian, and Lin Qian was Quanzai's sister. It wasn't hard to deduce that both Xinglan and Lin Qian were attacked. Xinglan ran for help, and Lin Qian was injured. That's how Quanzai ended up racing. But who was the mastermind behind this matter? and what was the purpose of this matter was worthy of intense discussion. The next morning, Superstar Media released a statement stating that they would cooperate with the police to find out the truth. They also vowed to give their artist an explanation. Superstar Media also claimed that everything happened because of the Journey competition. At the moment, Xinglan was fine, but her manager, Lin Qian, was seriously injured. For the sake of winning the competition, Xinglan actually dared to attack a contestant. This incident caused a huge impact, so Tongning decided to take a strong stance. Whether it's the perpetrator or the mastermind, Superstar Media will get to the bottom of this. It wasn't difficult to investigate the matter in detail. After all they had to do was follow the clues to find the truth. After Lin Qian was admitted to the hospital, Tongning sat quietly in Superstar Media's office and waited. Xinglan's competition was around the corner, and the police were still investigating the case. So, she wanted to see how long Xinglan could hold on. She wanted to tell everyone in the industry that not only couldn't they touch Hai Rui's people, they couldn't touch her people either. Long Jie, contact Feng Yu and ask him to prepare a contract with Xinglan. Originally, she planned to let Xinglan join Hai Rui after she won the competition. But now, she felt it was necessary to tell everyone about the relationship between Superstar Media and Hai Rui. Are we going to let Xinglan sign a contract now? Long Jie asked worriedly. She already has the right to do so, Tongning replied. Not long after, Tongning received a phone call from an unknown number. The person wanted to meet up with her, but Tongning immediately rejected. I have no need to meet up with a violent person. I don't want to risk my life. It's best if you get straight to the point. I hate people that aren't sincere. The man froze for a moment before he let out a gentle laugh. Tongning, you sure are arrogant. I have the capital to be arrogant. At the very least, if I want to catch someone, I won't be stupid enough to kidnap them directly, let alone in the downtown area. All right, name your conditions. It's just a small joke. Why make it so big? Conditions? Tongning sneered. I can have whatever I want. Do you think I care about your things? It's very simple. Your people should withdraw from the competition. Otherwise, when the police find out the truth, you will still have to withdraw from the competition, and it will be very ugly. If you want to take revenge on me, come at me, but my daughter doesn't know about this. You're right. I want to take revenge on you, and your weakness is your daughter. I want you to know that I can't take revenge on you. If you make a move, you will have to pay the price. If you offend my people, you will regret it for the rest of your life. As an actress, you can bully me. But as a manager, if you can't defeat me, then I will admit defeat. I'm begging you, can't I? People that beg for mercy when they fail are the most undeserving of sympathy. After speaking, Tongning hung up the phone. If the person was smart enough, he would have found a suitable reason to make his daughter withdraw from the competition. Otherwise, he would end up being humiliated in front of the entire nation. 2 days later, Tongning received news that someone had indeed withdrawn from the Journey competition. The reason was that he had broken his leg. In reality, everyone knew whether or not his leg was broken. But the person still had to pay the price. However, Xinglan's debt was settled. But Lin Qian's debt had yet to be settled. Quan Zai instructed the Quan family to hire a private investigator to investigate. Afterwards, they found the gangsters that had attacked Xinglan that night. Apart from anything else, he wanted everyone to be smashed until their heads bled. Only then would his hatred be appeased. He wasn't the type of person that followed the rules, because Tongning had to be careful with every step and couldn't allow anyone to use her against her. But he didn't care. If anyone dared to touch his people, he was going to pay them back in full. Tongning and Quan Zai were serious about this matter. Plenty of people in the industry heard about it. Of course, Tongning did not reveal that Xinglan had already signed with Hai Rui. At least, now wasn't the right time. Afterwards, Xinglan attended a recording for the Journey competition. When the reporters asked her about the attack, Xinglan first thanked the person that helped her out and called the police. At the same time, she expressed her determination. I will persist until the end of this competition. I want to tell everyone that no matter what happens, I will stick to my original goal. Those who use underhanded methods won't last long. Someone tried to investigate the contestant that had suddenly withdrawn from the competition. But she did indeed have a hospital record, and it appeared that she had broken her right leg. But a reporter managed to capture a photo of the contestant outside her home. The answer was obvious. The broken leg was just an excuse. As for who provided the address of the contestant, it would soon become a legend. As a result, Lin Qian stayed in the hospital for an entire week. But by the time she left the hospital, the matter had already been settled and everyone that was involved had been punished. She returned to her post because Xinglan was about to compete again. But Quan Zai's manager would send her some chicken soup and some nourishing herbs every now and then. This made Lin Qian a little sick of it. Qian, it's not like you don't know what kind of person your brother is. If you don't finish it, I won't be able to explain myself. You'll be fine after you finish it, Lin Qian replied. If you don't finish it, I'm going to send it to you another day. It will be him, as expected. Lin Qian couldn't stand the threat and had no choice but to finish the chicken soup in one gulp. Actually, the fact that Lin Qian accepted Quan Zai's care meant that their relationship had started to warm up again. At least, she no longer rejected Quan Zai's good intentions. That night, Xinglan insisted on taking Lin Qian home. But it was only when she arrived that she noticed Quan Zai leaning against Lin Qian's bedroom door. Xinglan smiled as she left. Meanwhile, Lin Qian complained, "What's wrong with a popular artist spending the night outside his manager's door?" "In the eyes of the public, you are my sister," Quan Zai replied lazily as he crossed his arms. Lin Qian couldn't be bothered with him as she opened the door. But Quan Zai grabbed onto her right hand. The two froze for a second before Lin Qian finally relented. "Come in." Chapter 856. "It seems you've learned a lot from Tongning," Quan Zai said as he looked around after entering Lin Qian's apartment. After entering Lin Qian's apartment, Quan Zai looked around. "But don't learn from her. Not many people can handle it." "President Mo can handle it," Lin Qian said as she glared at him. "How many Mo Tings do you think there are in this world?" Quan Zai asked as he turned around and raised an eyebrow. "I have an event tomorrow, so I need to rest early today. Are you sure you don't want to go home?" Lin Qian sounded like she was chasing him away. Although she didn't reject Quan Zai, she didn't accept him as she pleased either. Quan Zai stared at Lin Qian for a few seconds before he suddenly said in seriousness, "Let me handle my mother. Is that not okay?" Lin Qian lowered her head and let out a gentle laugh. She then lifted her head and said to Quan Zai, "I don't want to see her at all. Can you not see your mother for the rest of your life?" "What if I say I can?" "Let's go." Lin Qian did not respond as she urged Quan Zai to leave. Quan Zai sighed and left Lin Qian's apartment. However, he did not immediately return home. Instead, he knocked on Lin Qian's next-door neighbor's door. "Name your price. I'll buy this apartment." He could no longer tolerate Lin Qian getting hurt over and over again. His own woman still had to be doted on by him. Not long after, Xinglan arrived for the competition to advance to the next round of 32. This time, the venue was the Beijing stadium that could hold 10,000 people. Faced with a bigger and bigger stage and more fans, Xinglan felt the responsibility on her shoulders increased. She wanted to get revenge for Lin Qian and let the important people around her hold their heads up high. So before she started singing, Xinglan faced everyone and said into the microphone, "As everyone knows, my manager and I were attacked a few days ago. In order to save me, my manager was seriously injured and only recovered a few days ago from the hospital. After experiencing this incident, I was greatly moved. I think I now understand why I'm standing on this stage and what I'm persevering for. My boss, Tongning, rescued me from the swamps and gave me a new lease on life. Meanwhile, my manager treats me as more important than herself and shields me from the elements. So, I feel like every song I sing should be filled with gratitude. I want to thank them for the help they've given me, and I want to thank the Superstar Media family for the warmth they've given me. Back then, when Lin Xian tricked me into signing with Superstar Media, I didn't believe in reincarnation. But Ning Jie used the hard truth to convince me that everything was possible and that she could create the impossible. So, the next song, Escape from a Desperate Situation, is for everyone. This is a new song I wrote. Xing Lan's singing had always been outstanding. But at this moment, she was even more emotionally invested. It was a song about the epiphany of life. Of course, it also sang about all the struggles that life had to face in the face of adversity. The hall was filled with cheers for Xinglan. At this time, Superstar Media released a new update. Thank you, Xinglan, for placing your trust in Superstar Media. But you deserve a better stage. So, from today onwards, Xinglan is officially a part of Hairue. We hope your career will soar, and you will have a brand new life. Superstar Media is thankful to have you. The next step will be even more exciting. As soon as Superstar Media's PR statement was released, many people were dumbfounded. Because Superstar Media's role was suddenly very obvious. Tongning had no intention of establishing her own agency. Instead, she was going to dig up the buried pearls and wait for them to shine before sending them to Hairue, giving them a bigger platform to develop. But, as mentioned before, her role was to be a salvager. So, it was easy to imagine how bright Xia Hamo and Luo Sheng's future would be. But, Xinglan didn't hear about this until after the competition. When she found out that she was about to sign with Hairue, she did not feel happy. So, she immediately gave Tongning a phone call. Ning Jie, I had no idea about this. What? Aren't you happy that you've signed with Hairue? I want to stay because you and Lin Xian gave me a second chance at life. Superstar Media only has 3 people, but Hairue is an entertainment empire. The albums and Empress that you want, Superstar Media can't give you. Only Hairue can give you the space to develop, and only Hairue can protect your future as a star. Tongning explained patiently. Lin Xian and I will continue to help more talented people. As for you, I don't plan to continue managing. Ning Jie, don't worry, I know you're worried. But, trust me, Hairue will surprise you. You will definitely love the entertainment empire that my husband has established. From now on, there will be more professional people to take care of everything for you. Xinglan couldn't bear to part with Tongning. But, just like Tongning said, there was a limit to what Superstar Media could give her. But she understood that there were more people in the industry waiting for Tongning to help. So, she needed to step onto a bigger stage. This was the best way to repay Superstar Media. I will never forget that I came from Superstar Media. It's good that you remember. Tongning smiled. After speaking, Tongning put down her phone and leaned into Ting's embrace. I'm handing my first artist over to Hairue. You need to make the necessary arrangements. Tongning mumbled to Ting. Ting placed a kiss on Tongning's hair and hugged her tightly. They are all very outstanding. Of course. Don't you know who chose them? Tongning humphed. Deep down, she still couldn't bear to let them go. Plus, in the eyes of outsiders, Tongning was making a huge sacrifice. After all, it wasn't easy for her to nurture an artist. If she were to sign them to Hairue, even if they were husband and wife, people would still say that she was helping someone else. At this time, the public still didn't understand why Tongning created Superstar Media. But Tongning didn't care about these rumors. Meanwhile, a large portion of people saw the potential in Tongning's talent, so they all had their eyes on her. But was Tongning someone that casually signed on to anyone? Have you decided on the next artist? Ting asked Tongning before going to bed. After all, she had already saved 3 artists, so she was going to sign more. Yes, I've decided. But this time, it has nothing to do with the artist, Tongning replied gently. Huh? Just wait and see. I'm going to create a miracle. Tong Ning kept Mo Ting in suspense. Mo Ting couldn't help but laugh as he lovingly pulled Tong Ning into his embrace and whispered beside her ear, "You are a miracle." Chapter 857. When the public analyzed Tong Ning's current value, they realized that after she stopped being a model and stopped being an actress, she had the potential to create more useful things. Many artists were attracted by Tong Ning's reputation and wanted to sign with her. Regardless of whether they were popular or not, in the eyes of other artists, as long as they experienced Tong Ning's transformation, they were bound to achieve something. After all, even Xia Hanmo, who had a bad reputation, was cleansed by Tong Ning. But Tong Ning wasn't in the mood to look for artists at the moment. There was only one thing she wanted to do. Now that Hai Rui had taken over Xinglan, Lin Qian temporarily returned to Tong Ning's side. Tong Ning gave her some information and asked her to help her find the director called Qiao. Senator Qiao Sun was currently 60 years old. As a director, his status in the film industry was quite awkward. He had switched from being an architect to being a director. A long time ago, he mentioned that he wanted the country to embark on the path of special effects. But no one was willing to spend the money. So, he barely produced any work. Even if he had a good script, no one was willing to invest in him. As a result, he ended up suffering from depression. As of now, he was accompanied by his family, far away from the industry and resting on a private island. So, Tong Ning decided to ask him for help. She wanted to fulfill the old director's wish and produce a sci-fi blockbuster that was worthy of the nation. After listening to Tong Ning's explanation, Mo Ting said, "If you really want to invest in a blockbuster like this, you need to make sure it does well at the box office. Otherwise, you won't be able to make back your investment." "I'm already prepared," Tong Ning said in seriousness. "You know how serious I am." Mo Ting remained silent for a few seconds before he gently stroked her hair. "If you want to do it, then do it. If you go bankrupt, I'll support you." Mo Ting did not stop Tong Ning's crazy move. After all, he understood his wife's ambition. When Tong Ning wanted to do something, there was practically nothing that could stop her. "In that case, I may need to leave Beijing for a couple of days," Tong Ning said as she hooked her arms around Mo Ting's neck. "I want to personally invite Elder Qiao, Senator Ting." Mo Ting gently rubbed her forehead and hugged her tightly. "Whatever you want, I will give it to you." Love was supposed to be a mutual achievement. Tong Ning returned Mo Ting's hug and took the initiative to undo his clothes. The couple kissed each other passionately. After so long, their feelings were still as passionate as before. Afterwards, the couple found themselves in the living room. Mo Ting immediately regained control as he placed Tong Ning on the sofa. He then looked into her eyes and intimately pressed his body against hers. Their crazily intertwined bodies seemed to be fighting with each other. That kind of obsession almost drove the two of them crazy. That night was spent in countless acts of love. This was the first time Tong Ning had been completely drained of energy. Even walking upstairs was a struggle. Afterwards, Mo Ting carried Tong Ning to the bedroom. However, the couple were still intertwined together. Tong Ning couldn't help but mumble in a daze, "No. No more." This was the first time Mo Ting had indulged in his desires so much. All he wanted was to completely devour her and be with this woman forever. Although she was physically weak, she still remembered she had to leave early the next morning. However, just as she was about to head to the garage to drive, she heard someone honking downstairs. Tong Ning looked downstairs and saw Mo Ting sitting in the car, beckoning her over with his finger. Tong Ning immediately ran downstairs. "Were you asleep just a moment ago?" "Let's go. I'll take you there," Mo Ting said. "You're going to the office. Did you think I'd let you go to a deserted island on your own?" Tong Ning smiled as she nodded her head. In the end, she compromised. "What about the kids? Mom will take care of them." After speaking, Mo Ting waited for Tong Ning to board the car before he started the car and the couple set off together. Thinking about the craziness from the previous night, Tongning couldn't help but sneak a glance at the man beside her. She noticed he was brimming with energy, completely unaffected. It'll take about 4 hours. You should get some sleep first. You didn't get much rest last night, Ting said with a hidden meaning. Tongning glared at him and scoffed. She then pulled out some information and began to read up on Xiaosen's life. Not long after, Lin Qian gave Tongning a phone call. The couple agreed to set off together, but President Mo directly left Lin Qian behind. It's nothing. Let me tell Lin Qian first. I feel a little uncomfortable. Do you think it's more useful to bring her or me? Huh? Ting's voice was a little seductive and dangerous. This caused Tongning to burst into laughter. You are omnipotent. So, Lin Qian had no choice but to grab her luggage and return to the apartment. However, as she stepped into the elevator, she bumped into Quan Zai's manager. Didn't your brother tell you that he moved in next door? Quan Zai's manager shrugged his shoulders. Lin Qian furrowed her brows. Originally, she was going to head over after dropping off her luggage. But, as soon as she opened the door, she was shocked. Quan Zai had already asked his men to break through the walls of the two apartments. Quan Zai originally thought that Lin Qian would be gone for a few days. Who would have thought that she would return so quickly? Things suddenly became a little awkward. What are you planning to do? Lin Qian asked as she crossed her arms and pointed to the broken wall with her chin. Quan Zai lay on the sofa in a daze. He then shrugged his shoulders. Did I break it wrong? Tell your men to return it to its original state, Lin Qian yelled. But that's not what I plan to do, Quan Zai said as he wrapped his arm around Lin Qian's shoulder. Continue to break it. This is my home. I'm your brother, Quan Zai replied naturally. It's normal for siblings to live together. I'm not blood-related. It's better than blood-related, Quan Zai replied smoothly. Aren't you afraid that your mother will come and see you? That's even better. I can't be bothered to explain. Quan Zai returned to his usual lazy demeanor. You should know that I'm not afraid of anyone finding out. I'm afraid, Lin Qian humphed. Don't be afraid. I'll take responsibility, Quan Zai promised as he pinched Lin Qian's chin. Qian, stop avoiding me. Lin Qian did not say a word. She couldn't be bothered to argue anymore. Let me be clear first. If your mother gets a heart attack or commits suicide or jumps off a building, I won't take responsibility. I said, I'll take responsibility. Lin Qian froze for a few seconds before she extricated herself from Quan Zai's embrace and returned to her room. After Tongning left, she still had things to do. It didn't mean that she could play around. Long Jie continued to take care of Luo Sheng, while she continued to protect Xia Hanmo. Now, there was one more thing that she had to worry about. The bastard Quan Zai. They had agreed that they wouldn't get too close to each other and that they would live their own lives. But, for some reason, ever since Quan Zai's blood flowed through her body, she suddenly felt that hurting this man was cruel. Even though she knew what would happen to them, she still couldn't control herself. Qian, come out and eat. I made it myself. Chapter 858. Afterwards, the couple sat down at the dining table as if everything was the same as before. But, a moment later, Quan Zai received a phone call from Mother Quan. But he did not avoid Lin Qian as he directly spoke to her in front of her. Yes, I've moved. It's for the convenience of filming. Your father's 60th birthday is coming up. No matter what, you should find some time to come back. We'll talk about it when the time comes, Quan Zai replied before he hung up the phone. A few seconds later, Lin Qian's phone rang. It was the same person. Lin Qian was stunned for a few seconds before she picked up the phone. Mom, it's your father's 60th birthday. I'm coming back to visit. Mother Quan said emotionlessly before she hung up without giving Lin Xian a chance to respond. Lin Xian put away her phone and continued to eat like nothing had happened. But this caused Quan Zai to look closely at her expression. Are you angry? I'm not that petty. Lin Xian lifted her head. You are you, and your mother is your mother. I know how to differentiate between that. In that case, eat more. I'll give you all your favorites. Lin Xian originally wanted to tell him that it was useless because they wouldn't be able to go far. But seeing how excited Quan Zai was, she decided not to say it out loud. It wasn't that she was pessimistic, nor was it that she didn't want to strive for happiness. But she was afraid that Quan Zai would end up with a body full of injuries. She didn't want to hurt the person that mattered to her. That afternoon, Ting and Tongning finally arrived at Xiao Sen's private island and explained the reason for their visit to Xiao Sen's family. But Xiao Sen's daughter directly rejected Tongning and asked her to leave. It wasn't easy for my father to let go of his obsession and recover from his illness. I don't want him to come into contact with films again. I think his current leisurely life is more suitable for him. Miss Chiao, I know this has reopened your scars, but no matter how well director Chiao pretends to be, his lifelong dream is still to film an epic sci-fi film. This is something that he has held on to for decades. How hard would it be for him to give up? If you don't let him give it a try, he can play along and pretend to be happy for now. But as time passes, he will realize that he still can't let go of his dreams and wishes. I hope you will consider it carefully. I will wait for your reply at a hotel 10 kilometers away from the island. The man accepted Tongning's business card, but as soon as he turned around, he threw it in the bin. I don't trust anyone in the entertainment industry. You guys can leave. Don't come back. The sea breeze lifted Tongning's coat, sending chills down her spine. But this result was obviously within Tongning's expectations. Ting pulled her into his embrace and kissed her on the forehead. Let's go back to the hotel. It's cold here. It's okay. I want to stand here for a while. Since I'm already here, I can't leave empty-handed. I understand Director Chiao's family, so I need to show them my attitude. Ting did not say a word as he drove his car over to shield Tongning from the wind. At this time, he was Tongning's most reliable backer. The two of them stood by the sea until evening. It seemed that the other party had not changed his mind. Get in the car, otherwise you might catch a cold. After being exposed to the sea breeze for a few hours, Tongning knew that this was Ting's limit. She couldn't afford to risk her health. But at this time, the metal door to the villa opened, and Xiao Sen's daughter said reluctantly, "My father wants to invite you in." Tongning turned around and glanced at Ting before the two of them followed Miss Chiao into the villa. At this moment, Xiao Sen was fishing by the beach. During the evening, schools of fish would come out to look for food. Director Chiao, Tongning greeted politely. So it's the famous President Mo from Hai Rue. Xiao Sun smiled at Ting as he fished. Obviously, he wasn't familiar with Tongning. Why would Hai Rue be interested in an old man like me? It's not Hai Rue. This is my wife, Ting introduced. Xiao Sun took a quick glance at Tongning, but only for a split second. President Mo, don't tell me that your wife is asking me to make a comeback. Because I know that you want to complete a blockbuster sci-fi film, one that will be remembered by the entire film industry. You? Xiao Sun looked at Tongning with disdain. You want to invest in my film? I want to participate in the production, Tongning replied straightforwardly. You're still wet behind the ears. I know that in Director Chiao's heart, I'm just a bored investor. But please take a look at the films I've participated in. If you continue to speak to me in such an arrogant manner, I don't think anything will work out between us. So, my husband and I will wait for your news at the hotel. After speaking, Tongning wrote down the names of the films she had participated in and placed them beside the old director's feet. Ting, let's go. Ting wasn't happy with the way the old man spoke, but he did not say anything. He simply led Tongning to the hotel. Tongning had been exposed to the cold wind for a long time that afternoon, so he didn't want his wife to catch a cold. At first, Elder Qiao did not move. To be exact, he had no intention of picking up the piece of paper. It was the old man's daughter who picked it up and began to search for it. The first film she watched was W.H. because she loved disaster films. Originally, she wanted to ridicule Tongning's vase acting skills. But after watching it for a few minutes, she couldn't stop herself. Afterwards, Elder Qiao carried the fish he had caught into the living room. Seeing his daughter watching a film, he couldn't help but sneak a few glances. What film is this? It's the one that handed you a business card this afternoon. It's the main character of Tongning. It's called W.H. Her acting is not bad. Elder Qiao put down his fish basket and sat down on the sofa. Just like that, he watched for 2 whole hours. It's hard to find anyone in the country who can act as well as she does. Am I right, Dad? Qiao Sen's daughter couldn't help but sigh. Qiao Sen's brows furrowed. He could sense that Tongning's seriousness in her acting was comparable to his own determination. So, he felt apologetic for his arrogance. There's more. Do you want to continue watching? Release it, Elder Qiao ordered. He felt Tongning had ignited his soul. If there was someone that was as obsessed with sci-fi as he was and invested in it, then he was confident that the country would be able to produce a good sci-fi film. They didn't need to rely on Hollywood's resources. Would Tongning be willing to invest in it? If this was the case, then her name would be remembered in the history of Beijing's film industry. Of course, he was confident in his film. But what if it failed? Not only him, but Tongning would also become a complete joke. This young woman had some guts. Chapter 859. Dad, what do you think? Xiao Sen's daughter asked. I feel that Tongning is a very serious person. If anyone else invited you, I would never agree. But if it's Tongning, you should think about it. Xiao Sun crossed his arms as he watched the film. That night, he watched all of Tongning's films over and over again. In the end, he had to admit that as an actress, Tongning had moved him. Help me contact her. Hayes, I knew you were going to go back on your word. So I already picked up her name card from the trash, Xiao Sen's daughter said as she placed the crumpled name card in front of Xiao. Senator Xiao Sen hesitated for quite some time. In the end, he gave Tongning a call the next morning. In the industry, there were a lot of people that wanted to sign with Tongning through their connections. Long Jie and Lin Qian both had information on a lot of artists. But Tongning had gone to a private island. This meant that she would be focusing on filming a high-quality sci-fi film. Perhaps she wouldn't be signing any artist for the time being. Over the next 2 days, apart from checking up on Xia Hamo's situation overseas, Lin Qian spent most of her time at home recharging her batteries. If Quanzai had activities during the day, he would attend them. If he didn't, he would stay at home to keep Lin Qian company. Even though Lin Qian didn't seem to care about him. It was almost Father Quan's 60th birthday, but Lin Qian didn't mention a word about it. It seemed she didn't want to see the Quan family. On the 3rd morning, Tongning returned with some good news, and Director Qiao Senator Lin Qian returned to Tongning's side. She wanted to meet the master of sci-fi. Qiao Sun was indeed a fan of sci-fi. As soon as he arrived in Beijing, he did not say a single word to Tongning, and the two hit it off immediately. However, filming a sci-fi film could take up to a few years. Especially during post-production, it was especially long. So, Qiao Sun told Tongning to be mentally prepared. Tongning took out all her savings and decided to invest it in post-production. She also told Qiao Sun to find a team that he could trust, as long as he could guarantee that the film would be worth the investment. Qiao Sun admired Tongning's courage. Of course, he was also prepared to show off his ambitions. After everything was settled, Tongning sat in her office resting. At this time, Lin Qian knocked on the door and asked, Do you have any plans for tomorrow night? What's wrong? Tongning asked. I'm going to attend my adoptive father's 60th birthday party. Lin Qian shrugged. Actually, it wasn't hard to tell from her tone that she didn't want to go at all. Quan Zai's father? Tongning raised an eyebrow. She was aware that a lot of things had happened between Lin Qian and Mother Quan. Perhaps it was because Mother Quan felt that Lin Qian was an adopted child. So, she felt that Lin Qian should repay a debt of gratitude. Because of this, Lin Qian had suffered a lot of pressure. That's right. After speaking, Lin Qian turned to leave, but Tongning stopped her. Wait a minute, Tongning said as she handed her car keys to Lin Qian. I think you need these. A successful career is the best way for a woman to fight back against those who look down on her. Lin Qian smiled in agreement, but she did not take the keys from Tongning. Don't worry, I know what to do. Lin Qian knew that Tongning was afraid that she would be humiliated. But she wasn't the Lin Qian of the past. She wasn't going to be sold off so easily. The next day, Quan Zai was dressed in a suit. But seeing that Lin Qian had not left yet, he pushed open the study room door. Why aren't you leaving? You can go home first. I still have some unfinished business on hand. You're not coming with me? Why must I go with you? Lin Qian asked. Quan Zai knew that Lin Qian couldn't act naturally when it came to her parents. But her willingness to go was already the biggest compromise she could make. So, he quietly closed Lin Qian's door and asked his manager to drive over. Isn't Qian going home? The manager asked curiously as soon as she saw Quan Zai walk out on his own. Give her some time. After speaking, Quan Zai boarded his car. But before he left, he subconsciously glanced over at Lin Qian's room. After Quan Zai left, Lin Qian closed the documents in her hands and walked calmly towards the wardrobe. For the Quan family's birthday celebration, the retro villa was decorated lavishly. On the surface, the couple were hosting a banquet, but their ultimate goal was to let Quan Zai meet the heiresses of the various families. Perhaps, once he took a liking to one of them, he would no longer focus on the entertainment industry. Plus, Father Quan hated it when Quan Zai stayed in the entertainment industry. It was a complete waste of time. At this moment, Father Quan and Mother Quan were mingling with the guests. Not long after, a black-suited Quan Zai appeared at the banquet. He was, after all, handsome, confident, and had a natural flirtatious aura. Quan Zai's appearance immediately attracted the attention of many women. This made Mother Quan's face light up. Zai, what took you so long? Uncles have been waiting for you. Today is Dad's birthday. Why were you waiting for me? Quan Zai asked. Let me tell you, your Annie Lee's heiress has finally returned from studying abroad. This is her first time at our house, so she's not familiar with the place. Why don't you show her around? As soon as Quan Zai heard this, he humphed and looked at Mother Quan mockingly. Mom, where's Qian? Mother Quan's expression suddenly turned sour. Why did you mention her if you have nothing to do? She's my sister. Why can't I mention her? She's just an outsider. Mother Quan turned her face away in disgust. Go and greet Annie Lee's daughter for me. Quan Zai did not reject Mother Quan's request as he walked over to Heiress Lee's side. She was beautiful and had a good figure, but Quan Zai did not want to take a second glance at her. Zai, did I make things difficult for you? The woman had a good impression of Quan Zai. After all, if she could conquer a monster like Quan Zai, it would be a great honor. Quan Zai was annoyed by the woman asking a question he already knew the answer to, so he replied, yes, it was difficult. Ah, I heard you have a sister. Where is she? At the mention of Lin Qian, Quan Zai's expression changed slightly. That's not something you should be asking about, Quan Zai said as he hid to the side. Seeing that Heiress Lee was confused, the others immediately stepped forward to explain. Quan Zai is the only child in the Quan family. Lin Qian was adopted by the Quan family, so she's not their biological daughter. I heard that Lin Qian doesn't know how to be grateful, so no one in the Quan family likes her. She's now in the entertainment industry. What about Quan Zai? What's his attitude towards his sister? Arisley asked. Chapter 860. I don't think so. After all, who would want someone that popped out of nowhere to take away half of their love? Young Mistress Li felt a little relieved after hearing this. The gaze that followed Quan Zai's gaze became even more intense. The banquet was about to start, but Lin Qian was still nowhere to be seen. Mother Quan thought that Lin Qian wouldn't be coming, so she revealed a mocking smile. But, to her surprise, a white sports car drove into the villa, and Lin Qian stepped out. She was wearing a silver, diamond-studded dress and exuded the charm of a mature woman. Isn't that the child that the Quan family adopted? So, that's Lin Qian. She's so beautiful now. The Quan family doesn't really like this child. Who would have thought that she would be so successful? Discussions about Lin Qian filled the room. Some of the words even made their way into Lin Qian's ears. But Lin Qian was not afraid. She elegantly walked over to Father Quan and Mother Quan in her white heels and hugged them. "Dad, Mom." Father Quan did not have any expression on his face, as he simply said, "It's good that you're back." Meanwhile, Mother Quan's gaze was filled with disgust and coldness. Lin Qian looked at the two elders and was about to give them her present when Quan Zai suddenly pulled her into his arms and gave her a gentle hug. "Qin Qian." Lin Qian stepped on Quan Zai's foot angrily. This man was obviously doing this on purpose. After all, they lived under the same roof. Everyone watched as Quan Zai hugged Lin Qian, albeit lightly. Although it was a gentle hug, it still shocked all the guests. There were so many socialites here, but Quan Zai had never touched a single leaf. Yet his attitude towards Lin Qian was extremely affectionate and doting. It seemed this brother of hers didn't hate Lin Qian like the rumors said. Mother Quan was extremely displeased by Quan Zai's actions, but she couldn't criticize him. All she could do was remind him, "Zai, help me greet the guests." Lin Qian couldn't help but pinch Quan Zai. Instead, Quan Zai laughed. Soon it was time for the gift-giving segment. Every family presented their precious gifts, especially the daughter of the Li family. She knew that Father Quan had a hobby of collecting, so she gifted him a 1,000-year-old antique. This must be worth tens of millions. From the looks of it, she's trying to please her future father-in-law. This is too extravagant. Heiress Li's lips curved upwards as she received everyone's envious gazes. Naturally, Mother Quan was full of praise for her. "Xiao Ai, you're so considerate. I'll let Zai dance with you later." Miss Li turned to look at Lin Qian. For some reason, even though there were so many female guests present, she still looked at Lin Qian with hostility. Was it because she was Quan Zai's sister? Qian, what have you prepared for your father?" An elder asked. "It wasn't easy for your parents to raise you. You must be filial." Lin Qian smiled as she pulled out a brocade box from her handbag and handed it to Father Quan. "I don't have anything valuable, so I can only give you an old item," Lin Qian explained with a smile. Indeed, compared to the daughter of the Li family, she paled in comparison. No wonder the Quan family were all smiles when they saw their future daughter-in-law, but were expressionless when they saw Lin Qian. Father Quan received the brocade box and opened it. He was stunned for a few seconds before his eyes filled with tears. Qian, where did you find this?" "I heard you mention it when I was young, so I've been keeping an eye out for it over the years." It turned out, what Lin Qian gave Father Quan was an item left behind by Quan Zai's grandfather. Back then, in order to start his business from scratch, Grandfather Quan had sold his only pocket watch. For Father Quan, This was a very memorable item. Obviously, compared to Miss Lee's antique, Father Quan was more interested in Lin Qian's pocket watch, because he directly pulled out the pocket watch and ran his fingers through it countless times. Mother Quan glared at Lin Qian. She was angry that she had stolen Li Ai's limelight. But Lin Qian didn't seem to notice a thing. She completely ignored Mother Quan's expression. It's said that a daughter is like a father's cotton jacket. I guess it's true. She's remembered what she heard when she was young. She sure is filial. Everyone's attitude towards Lin Qian had slightly changed. Qin Qian, I heard that you're a manager in the entertainment industry. Are the actors difficult to get along with? Someone deliberately provoked Lin Qian to embarrass herself by saying that she was in the entertainment industry with actors. But Lin Qian smiled elegantly. I don't think the ones that are easy to get along with are you, my guest. At least, they haven't made things difficult for me. As soon as she said this, the man froze. Sorry, I need to go to the bathroom. You guys continue. Lin Qian knew that if she continued to stay there, she would be attacked by everyone. So, she decided to leave. But, just as she entered the bathroom on the first floor, a black figure suddenly appeared and locked the door. Are you crazy? Lin Qian glared at Quan Zai as soon as she saw him. Quan Zai grabbed onto Lin Qian's wrist and lowered his head to kiss her. I refuse to believe that you didn't expect me to do this. Lin Qian couldn't help but bite Quan Zai and sigh. Do you want the entire world to know that we're messing around? As long as I'm happy, I don't need to care about what others think. But I do care. Don't put me in such a difficult position, Lin Qian said in seriousness. After hearing this, Quan Zai pulled Lin Qian into his embrace. Just let me hug you for a little while. I promise. I'll behave myself tonight. At this moment, Lin Qian's heart softened and she stopped struggling. A little while later, Quan Zai let go of her. We'll continue at home tonight. After speaking, he opened the bathroom door and walked out. Lin Qian looked in the mirror and touched up her makeup. But a little while later, Li Ai also walked in and asked, just a moment ago, I think you were in the bathroom with Quan Zai? Miss Li, you're thinking too much, Lin Qian replied. She appeared extremely calm. But I clearly saw. You're seeing things? But the reality was, how could Li Ai be seeing things? She clearly saw Quan Zai wiping the lipstick from his lips as he walked out of the bathroom. What was going on with this brother and sister pair? Li Ai's mind was a mess as she thought of countless possibilities. But the most convincing one was that Lin Qian had seduced Quan Zai. After all, they weren't related by blood, right? Thinking of this, Li Ai felt disgusted by Lin Qian. So, she decided to tell Mother Quan about this. She wondered how Mother Quan would feel after hearing about this. After returning to the living room, Li Ai approached Quan Zai and asked, Zaire, I just saw you and Lin Qian in the bathroom. Am I seeing things? You're not seeing things, Quan Zai admitted. Don't you what? Li Ai looked at Quan Zai in shock. Her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Chapter 861. Is there something wrong with your ears? Quan Zai shook his head as he looked at Li Ai pitifully. Are you trying to say that you were having sex with Lin Qian in the bathroom just now? No matter what it was, you don't have a chance. After speaking, Quan Zai stood up from the corner and walked away with a glass of red wine. He did not admit it, but he did not deny it either. Li Ai clenched her fists. She felt helpless against Quan Zai's torture. Of course, although Quan Zai didn't explain everything clearly, he didn't give Li Ai a chance either. Li Ai wasn't someone that refused to admit defeat. She simply couldn't accept losing to Lin Qian. After all, they were brother and sister in name. With this thought, Li Ai approached Mother Quan and whispered to her, "Annie, can I have a word with you?" Mother Quan nodded her head and quickly left the living room with Li Ai. They then walked out onto the lawn. "Xiao Ai, what do you want to say to Annie?" "Annie, don't you think that Zai and Lin Qian's relationship is a little too close?" Li Ai asked mysteriously. "Xiao Ai, they are brother and sister, so it's only natural for them to be close. Don't take it to heart. But I just saw them kissing in the bathroom." Li Ai's tone was a little exaggerated. Of course, she was also a little shocked. "I even asked Zai about it, and he didn't deny it." Hearing this, Mother Quan froze as her eyes opened wide. "Are you sure you didn't see wrong?" "No, Auntie." When Zai stepped out of the bathroom, he was still wiping the lipstick off his lips. After hearing this, Mother Quan clenched her fists tightly and left Li Ai behind as she stormed into the living room. Even though there were guests around and it was a big scene, she couldn't care less as she walked over to Lin Qian and threw a slap across her face. The loud slap immediately attracted the attention of all the guests. "I didn't raise you so that you could seduce your brother," Mother Quan yelled. Lin Qian was angered by Mother Quan's words, but she did not retaliate. Instead, she waited until Quan Zai was right in front of her before she suddenly slapped him across the face. "What are you doing?" Mother Quan yelled at Lin Qian. "I'll treat your son the same way you treat me." Lin Qian replied coldly. "I'm sorry, I never tried to seduce Quan Zai. Your son was the one that seduced me the entire time. The Quan family raised you, but you also sold me." Lin Qian immediately retorted, "The gratitude you showed me for raising me was completely wiped out when you sold me off. How dare you say that the Quan family raised me? Plus, I'm not related to Quan Zai by blood. If I insist on being with him, it's not your business. Didn't you say that I seduced him? I'll seduce you now." After speaking, Lin Qian hooked her arms around Quan Zai's neck and planted a kiss on his lips. But it only lasted for a few seconds before she let go of him and taunted Mother Quan, "As you wish." "Ah, you are a slut." Mother Quan was so angry that she had no choice but to curse. But Lin Qian sneered and pushed Quan Zai away. "My debt with the Quan family ends today. As for you, Quan Zai, move out of my home. If you don't leave, then I will." After speaking, Lin Qian stormed out of the living room in front of everyone. How disgusting. Mother Quan was so angry that she felt like she was about to have a heart attack. But there was nothing she could do. "Quan Zai, you better give me a proper explanation. What exactly is going on?" Qian already said it a moment ago. Quan Zai shrugged his shoulders. "Don't tell me you want to suffer another blow?" That slut said, "That's right. I like her. So I chased after her all over the world and became an artist for her," Quan Zai replied straightforwardly. "I even became her neighbor so that I could get close to her. Do you have any sense of decency?" Mother Quan punched Quan Zai in the chest. "She's your sister. I don't remember you giving birth to a sister." After speaking, Quan Zai put down the glass of champagne in his hand and said to the guests, "I'm sorry, but for the sake of chasing after Qian, I need to excuse myself. You guys make yourselves at home." After speaking, Quan Zai immediately chased after Lin Qian. In reality, Quan Zai was very thankful to Li Ai. If Li Ai hadn't exposed their relationship, he would never have known that his Qian had become so strong. The slap just now wasn't fake. It was with full force. Most importantly, his Qian now knew how to protect herself. So, when he thought about the slap that Lin Qian gave him, he laughed instead of getting angry. Plus, Mother Quan's actions made him feel a sense of relief. Especially since they were at a big event like this, it was equivalent to announcing it to the entire world. From now on, he and Lin Qian were going to be called a shameless couple. But for some reason, he suddenly felt that being called a shameless couple wasn't a bad thing. Lin Qian was truly angered. Just the thought of Mother Quan made her want to vomit. Because of this, after leaving the event, she did not return home. Instead, she headed straight to Xinglan's place. After all, she did not want to see Quanzai that night. As soon as Xinglan saw Lin Qian dressed up, she could tell that she was at a big event. But when she saw the unhappy expression on Lin Qian's face, she did not dare to ask. "Take me in tonight. I don't want to go home." "Because of Quanzai?" Xinglan asked with a smile. "You won't understand how I feel." Lin Qian sighed. "I indeed don't. But I feel that you and Quanzai have been entangled together for so many years. If you were to leave each other, what other person would you find? Plus, do you think Quanzai would let you off so easily? Most importantly, how do you feel about Quanzai? Stop lying to yourself." Lin Qian did not respond. No matter who you are with, there will always be obstacles. Don't be naive. After speaking, Xinglan stood up and patted Lin Qian on the shoulder. "I need to practice tomorrow, so I won't be staying with you. You can stay here, but you still need to go home." Lin Qian did not say a word, but the confusion in her eyes lessened. Soon, Lin Qian received a message from Quanzai. "Qian, let's go home." Go home? She wasn't going to let Mother Quan's incident go so easily, even though she had just slapped Quanzai across the face. It didn't take long before she received a phone call from Tongning, interrupting Lin Qian's thoughts. "The incident has gotten so big that it's even on the news." "What?" Lin Qian was shocked. "Have you forgotten that you are both in the same industry? The news is saying that you and your sister are having an affair." Tongning laughed. "Quanzai has already made his stance clear. What about you? Do you want to help Quanzai with PR?" Just one word: that you're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.